Chapter 2280. Shuejing Xiao Snow Clan. A silvery white snowy world. On a vast snowy field, two young people seated in the snow, looking at each other. In front of them was a teapot. Surprisingly, water could still boil there. Jing Xiao, many years ago, I hoped you'd come to the ice and snow shrine to study. But you always refused. Now you're already so strong you can't refuse anymore, smiled the younger person. Snowflakes covered them. Shuejing Xiao smiled back and said, Di Jiang, you're perseverant. You're such a good friend. I wish we could study in the ice and snow shrine together. That's why I've been trying for so long. Think about it. We've known each other for 30 years. The first time I invited you, you refused, and we even had a big fight, said Di Jiang, smiling warmly. Now we're both public figures. Our youth was funny. I remember. Back then I thought I could defeat you, even if you were from a shrine. Shuejing Xiao laughed. I've never defeated you either, said Di Jiang, laughing. He took a sip of tea and said, I've been spending time with my beloved sister. If you don't ask, I'll be angry. How's Di Chan? Shuejing Xiao grinned. You always refused to join the shrine. Do you think she's happy? Di Jiang said to Shuejing Xiao. He rolled his eyes. Shuejing Xiao smiled wryly. So many years, you understand me. I don't have emotions. Emotions would prevent me from becoming a stronger cultivator. Chan has said she would never prevent you from becoming stronger, said Di Jiang. Don't you trust her? Or like her? Don't provoke me. I like her too. She knows that, said Shuejing Xiao. When Di Jiang heard that, he smiled happily. So many years have passed. I've been waiting for you to say that. Shuejing Xiao stood up. He said calmly, Now, a forbidden person has appeared. The continent of the 9 clouds is going to change. Shuejing Xiao gazed into the distance. Di Jiang was startled. The ice and snow shrine had heard about that. How had he? A few days ago, Huoxingzi from the Fire Shrine proposed a marriage alliance to the Void Phoenix clan. They're progressing. It's only a matter of time. They want to form an alliance with the shrine to become stronger, said Di Jiang calmly. He was putting it in a way which made the Void Phoenix clan look cheap. But the shrines had many cultivators like Huoxingzi. If they could all get married with women from Holy Sage ruler clans, then it would be beneficial for everybody. So you came to me, said Shuejing Xiao, smiling. Di Jiang nodded calmly. I've heard that a genius has appeared in the Snow Clan, and that he was walking on the same path as the 4 monarchs, said Di Jiang, mused. Shuejing Xiao nodded. You're talking about Zhetian. Indeed, he's astonishingly talented. In the future, he'll be much stronger than me. When Di Jiang heard about Zhetian, he shivered. He was even stronger than he had thought then. He couldn't actually imagine. But don't try to make him join the ice and snow shrine. The 4 monarchs are strong. Shui Ao is talented, but his personality isn't good enough. If Zhetian managed to control himself and stayed in the Snow Clan, he would be able to become the king of the Snow Clan. If he can't, I'll help Shui Ao. They can't join the ice and snow shrine though, said Shuejing Xiao calmly. The Snow Clan's future king couldn't join any shrine. It was a rule. Di Jiang nodded. He understood. Come with me to the shrine for a walk? Di Jiang asked Shuejing Xiao. All right, let's go and see Di Chan. Shuejing Xiao nodded. They both got ready to leave for the ice and snow shrine. At the top of a mountain a few dozens of li away from the snowy field was an old woman. Next to her was someone with his hands clasped on his back. I wouldn't have thought that Jing Xiao would agree to go to his shrine, said the old woman, surprised. Jing Xiao knows what to do. He's much more talented than Shui Ao. We've never prevented Shui Ao from doing anything, so we can't prevent Jing Xiao from doing anything, either, said the other one calmly. The old woman nodded. The 4 monarchs are rising, but now there is a forbidden person in the world, and the shrines are worried. We have to remain discreet if we want to rise, and we can't be friends with just the ice and snow shrine. Of course, I've talked to the fire shrine. We have to maintain good relations with at least 3 shrines. The old woman nodded. If I'm not mistaken, the 20-year period we agreed with Shiju Laoxian is almost over. I think so too. Good, he's still practicing cultivation. The old woman shook her head. I don't know what kind of person Shiju Laoxian will bring. But no matter who he brings, his son is Zhetian. He gave us a big gift. If he comes, send Shueao, and tell him not to kill that boy. After all, he's Zhetian's father. Zhetian won't be happy. Because Zhetian was talented, the Snow Clan didn't want to displease him. If Zhetian had been weak, they would have forgotten about Lin Feng a long time ago. Back then, only the one who had agreed with Shiju Lao Xian had been there. Other people didn't know who had conceived a child with Meng Qing. But in 20 years, that emperor couldn't have become extremely strong. Shueao was a celestial imperial beast. He could slap the enemy and kill him instantly. In the Snow Clan apart from Meng Qing, someone else knew about Lin Feng. Xue Shenfeng. Xue Shenfeng was in a cave practicing cultivation. He came out and slowly walked forwards. He was already a great emperor. However, in the past, he had been humiliated by Lin Feng and hadn't forgotten about that. The 20-year period is almost over, sighed Xue Shenfeng. Time flies. He raised his head and gazed into the distance. He whispered, 10 years ago, you ranked first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. How strong are you now? Will you come to the Snow Clan? 20 years is not much, even if you're extremely talented. If you come to the Snow Clan you will die. Shueao is a celestial imperial beast already. He's terrifyingly strong. Back then you said you wanted to defeat the monarch of the Snow Clan. Apart from Shueao, there's someone much stronger. In the Snow Clan, apart from Xue Shenfeng, only Meng Qing remembered the 20-year agreement. The Snow Clan didn't take the agreement to heart. Nobody in the Snow Clan thought that that agreement could change the destiny of their whole clan, and that many people would regret it. During those days, Meng Qing was at the top of a snowy mountain, gazing into the distance. Time passed slowly for her. She was nervous, but she was also convinced Lin Feng would show up. She had never doubted that. Zhetian was behind Meng Qing, and knew what his mother was thinking. He also gazed into the distance. He was impatient. He had heard many stories about his father from Meng Qing. He had seen him only once, when he was still young, but now he was older. Zhetian, said Meng Qing. Mother. Zhetian took a step forwards and sat down next to his mother. Your father is coming. He will take us with him. If the Snow Clan doesn't respect the agreement, there will be a big conflict between the Snow Clan and your father. What will you do? Meng Qing asked him. He was not surprised. He had thought about that issue. No matter whether his father lost or not, he had to face such issues. Chapter 2281. Day of the Agreement. My father probably hates the Snow Clan, said Zhetian. Mom, you told me that when you were pregnant, Dad was very happy. You were happy together. But when the Snow Clan intervened, they kidnapped you. And if a saint hadn't helped, they would have killed him. Even though I wasn't there, I can imagine what it felt like. I can also imagine what it must have felt like to be kidnapped by a clan in which you've never lived, and to be separated from the most important person in your life for 20 years. And on top of that, they nearly killed him. I know you hate them, said Zhetian. He knew that his mother had cried a lot in life because of those things. He knew how she felt. However, my position is different, because I was born here and the Snow Clan is good to me. Therefore, for me, the best thing would be if the Snow Clan could accept my father. If that's impossible, I won't let the Snow Clan hurt my father, Zhetian said calmly. Meng Qing looked at Zhetian and sighed. So many years had passed. Zhetian had grown up in the Snow Clan. In the end he liked the Snow Clan. She couldn't blame him for that. But Meng Qing understood that the Snow Clan was very powerful. With Lin Feng's personality, he wouldn't accept having cordial relations with the Snow Clan. Lin Feng had been humiliated by them. Even if the Snow Clan said they agreed to let Lin Feng live with her, would he accept? Could things be that simple? And Lin Feng wasn't the only person to think that way. Any man, after being humiliated like that, wouldn't accept such a thing. They had stolen the most important person of his life. They wanted to kill him. After a long time, if they accepted letting them live together, could he forgive them? Even if the Snow Clan was her clan, Lin Feng wouldn't accept such a thing. It's difficult for you, Meng Qing said, caressing Zhetian's head. No matter what Zhetian decided, she wouldn't blame him. He was one of the 2 men she loved the most in life. Zhetian said nothing, but then he whispered, Mom, if he comes, do you think he can win? Of course, said Mengqing confidently. Zhetian nodded. He had seen how strong his father was when he was still a child. He had faith in his father too. I don't think anyone in the Snow Clan knows your father is the one who ranked first in the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. You saw your father there. Unfortunately, back then, I wasn't interested in going on out and going to such events. Otherwise, I would have been able to see your father, said Mengqing. She smiled when she thought about Lin Feng. She was convinced that he was going to come soon. After St. Ju took you back, he never mentioned things of the lower world. Maybe he has forgotten about the agreement. Shuai has been practicing cultivation intensively. He didn't even pay attention to the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. However, Jing Xiao did, but he doesn't know my father. There aren't many people who know who my father is in the Snow Clan. But when he comes, everybody will know who he is, whispered Zhetian. Mengqing nodded. The Snow Clan didn't know Lin Feng. Maybe it was just due to a strange combination of circumstances. St. Ju hadn't really taken the agreement to heart. They had even forgotten about the agreement. As they were talking, out in the vast snowy world, someone suddenly opened his eyes. It was St. Ju, the one who had brought Mengqing back then. He took a deep breath, and the snow around him melted. The 20-year period is almost over, murmured St. Ju. He had activated a sort of alarm in his mind to wake him up while he was meditating in seclusion. He took out a jade talisman and said, Shuai, the 20-year period is almost over. If you're not in the Snow Clan, come back. If old Shiju comes back with the guy, you can handle the situation alone. I'll naturally come and watch. He closed his eyes again. He didn't really believe that Shiju Lao Xian would bring Lin Feng back. He asked Shuai to get prepared just so that Shiju Lao Xian couldn't say that they hadn't respected the agreement. St. Ju didn't know that Shiju Lao Xian had already arrived in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. A few people were in a restaurant in the northwest area. Lin Feng, Qing Feng, and Jing were waiting together. Someone suddenly appeared in front of them out of nowhere and smiled. I'm here. The person took out a gourd and took a big swig of alcohol. His cheeks turned red. Teacher, Qing Feng said happily. Shiju Lao Xian hadn't changed. He still drank all the time. My good disciple, said Shiju Lao Xian with a smile. Then he looked at Lin Feng in amusement. There's something wrong. What kind of cultivation level is that? You look like an emperor, and at the same time you don't. You also look like a great emperor, and at the same time you don't. Tiandi layer, said Lin Feng. A particular strength appeared around him. Shiju Lao Xian was staring at him. After a few seconds he smiled. Interesting. You're really a celestial emperor. You can even hide your cultivation level from me. Lin Feng smiled. He wasn't a celestial emperor either. Thanks to some techniques he had learned from the fortune shrine, he could fake his cultivation level. However, if the difference between his real cultivation level and the cultivation level he pretended to be was too wide, then it was easy to see it wasn't true. However, Lin Feng had no cultivation level, so there couldn't be a real difference between his real non-existent cultivation level and the one he pretended to have. And it was enough for Shiju Lao Xian to believe him when Lin Feng showed him the strength of the Tiandi layer. You became a celestial emperor within 20 years. You don't really need me anymore, said Shiju Lao Xian with a laugh. But back then, Shuai was already a powerful great imperial beast. He must be a powerful celestial imperial beast now. Do you think you can defeat him easily? Yes, said Lin Feng nodding. He could easily defeat Shuai indeed. Good. But the agreement was that you would have to fight against one of their cultivators with a king-type body, in the end. Apart from Shuai, they have another one. I don't know what his cultivation level is now, said Shiju Lao Xian calmly. Then he took another big swig of booze. His cheeks were even redder. He looked happy, as if alcohol was the only thing which could make him happy in the world. I think that if the Snow Clan loses, they might not necessarily respect the agreement, said Lin Feng calmly. Of course, you must inform the Fortune Shrine first. All the shrines want to kill you now. If you go to the Snow Clan as Lin Feng, the shrines will quickly know you're there, Shiju Lao Xian said to Lin Feng telepathically. Even though he had been traveling all around the world, He had been paying attention to Lin Feng's adventures. Yes, Lin Feng nodded. As the diviner had told him, he would need the help of the Fortune Shrine. Even though he would be able to get his revenge, he couldn't face the whole Snow Clan. It was too powerful. Go to the Fortune Shrine for a couple days, get prepared. I know that the strongest cultivator of the Snow Clan, who has a king-type body, is in the Ice and Snow Shrine. He's very talented. He's much stronger than Shuai, said Shiju Laoxian. Lin Feng nodded and stood up. All right, I'm off. I'll get ready. I'll come and pick you up, said Shiju Laoxian dismissively. Lin Feng left the northwest area and headed back to the Fortune Shrine. Time passed. The Snow Clan was peaceful and calm, but the old woman organized a few things because something great was happening in the Snow Clan. Xue Jingxiao had come back with a woman from the Ice and Snow Shrine. She was Di Zhang's younger sister Di Chan. She was in love with Xue Jingxiao. At the same time, many people in the Snow Clan also learned that Xue Jingxiao had agreed to become a member of the Ice and Snow Shrine. The Snow Clan informed the Fire Shrine about it, so some people from the Fire Shrine were also going to take part in the ceremony. After all, Xue Jingxiao was a strong cultivator of his generation, and all his friends like Di Jiang were geniuses. Lin Feng was in the periphery of Fortune City. He gazed into the distance. He had gone through so much in life, he was less and less worried about random things. He wasn't even angry at Yi Renlei anymore, only when he was in a bad mood. Even though she had made bad decisions in her life, she had never promised anything to Lin Feng. However, he had never forgotten what the Snow Clan had done to him back in the days. They had humiliated him and tried to kill him. They had stolen his wife, and he had never even seen his own child. Chapter 2282. Agreement with the Snow Clan. Shuo came back to the Snow Clan. Many people gathered together to greet him. Many elders also showed up, especially people from a sub-branch of the Snow Clan, the Ao clan. Shuai Ao was going to become a king of the Snow Clan. The Ao clan was extremely proud. Shuai Ao's chi was very stable, and his strength was explosive. He was at the top of his cultivation level. The old woman arrived and smiled at Shuai Ao. Shuai Ao, you're back. Yes, Saint Ju asked me to come back. But I don't think it is useful, because Shiju Laoxian won't come. 20 years ago, that guy was talented, but he was only an emperor. At most, he became a celestial emperor, and that would be incredible already. If he has just broken through to the Tiandi layer, he can't fight against me. Shuai Ao had become less arrogant, but he was still proud. It doesn't matter. At least you're here for Jing Xiao. You should learn from him too, said the old woman. Shuai Ao nodded. Among the people of his generation, only Xue Jingxiao had a higher position than him in the Snow Clan. Recently, many new geniuses have emerged in the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds. The geniuses of the previous meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds are becoming stronger. I've heard that Chu Chunxiu has become a celestial emperor. He can already defeat people at the top of the Tiandi layer. The others have disappeared, but they're probably just as strong as him. Shuai Ao, you have a king-type body. You're a treasure in the Snow Clan. You can't consider everybody and everything beneath your notice. There are enough geniuses in this world, and the global situation is becoming chaotic, the old woman said to Shuai Ao. The people of the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds have become so strong already? Shuai Ao was startled. He hadn't paid attention to the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds back then, but he had heard that some of them were really strong. Yes, I've seen the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds fight. Some of them are incredible geniuses, said the old woman nodding. Now, all the shrines want to kill them. I hope I'll see some of them, said Shuai Ao coldly. The old woman was speechless. She had just told him not to be too arrogant, but he hadn't taken it to heart. It was his personality though. She couldn't make him change if he didn't want to. The Snow Clan was gigantic and had many clans. Their strengths determined their position within the Snow Clan. The weakest subclans were at the periphery. The strongest ones were in the center, where there were more resources. Of course, there were also many small worlds in the Snow Clan. The Snow Clan was as big as an empire. It wasn't an ordinary clan. They had many sorts of snow beasts, and all sorts of powers. Lin Feng was already within the territory of the Snow Clan. There was snow everywhere. When Lin Feng arrived, he took a deep breath and slowly landed onto the snow. 2 footprints appeared. There was no guard at the periphery of the Snow Clan. They didn't need guards. If someone wanted to kill people in the Snow Clan, it meant that they were extremely strong, and they could thus easily kill guards. So having guards would have just served as cannon fodder. However, to get to the central part of the Snow Clan, people had to cross many subclans' territories. Lin Feng took a deep breath. 20 years. Finally he was here. A blizzard started up. Lin Feng's cheeks were icy cold. He slowly walked forwards, determined and resolute. Mengqing Zhetian, I'm here, thought Lin Feng. How many days had passed? He wanted to take his wife and son back. Finally, he was going to have the opportunity. After some time, Lin Feng saw a gigantic ice statue. It was staring at him and said, "A stranger here, Dai." Lin Feng was startled that the statue could talk. However, he had his hands clasped behind his back and said to the statue, "I'm Lin Feng. I have an agreement with a saint from the Snow Clan." "I don't know about it, Dai," stated the statue, and it threw itself at Lin Feng. Lin Feng jumped forwards, his hands still clasped behind his back. A powerful strength surrounded him without effect. The gigantic statue frowned. Alarm whistles rose, and instantly, many statues appeared and filled out the sky. Lin Feng moved forwards at top speed. The statues were also really fast, and chased after him. However, they realized him was already too far ahead. Another strong wind brushed against them. They raised their heads but saw nothing. "Lin Feng, I came here regarding our agreement 20 years ago," shouted Lin Feng, his voice carrying far into the distance. Many strong cultivators from the Snow Clan raised their heads and looked at him coldly. Some terrifying beasts rose up in the air. But the wind was moving too fast. They only saw a shadow. Ordinary beasts couldn't see anything at all. Someone heard Lin Feng and rose up into the air, gazing into the distance coldly. He saw someone arriving at high speed. "Freeze!" he shouted. Instantly the atmosphere froze. He frowned and turned around. He was furious, because the intruder had disappeared into the distance already. "Lin Feng, I came here regarding our agreement 20 years ago." His voice continued echoing. Many strong cultivators frowned. "Lin Feng? Agreement? With whom? And who was Lin Feng?" That name sounded familiar. The Snow Clan was 30,000 li wide. Very soon, that voice echoed everywhere. Some strong cultivators wanted to attack, but they sensed oppressive energies surround them. A saint's chi. A saint had come to the Snow Clan. What was going to happen? "Lin Feng, I came here regarding our agreement 20 years ago." Meng Qing was at the top of a mountain. She heard that and shivered, smiling widely. Finally he was here. Zhetian was stunned and gazed into the distance. He whispered, "Father." Some elders appeared there and surrounded them. Meng Qing was trembling. "Elder, Ling Long, don't move," ordered the old man, staring at Meng Qing. He was from the Snow Fox subclan. She nodded. "Please protect us and let us watch from the distance." "All right," nodded the elder. They were still surprised. Meng Qing's husband had actually come. The old woman also heard that voice. She was surprised and gazed off into the distance. "Ao, he's here. You go." "Yes," Shui Ao nodded. He looked sharp and ice-cold as he flew towards the voice. Many old men's silhouettes also flickered as they followed him. Lin Feng finally stopped. He was in a frozen world. He saw a group of people moving towards him. It continued snowing, and he was quickly covered by a layer of snow. Many beasts from the Snow Clan had gathered around him already. He looked calm and composed. Meng Qing probably knew he was here now. Shui Ao and the others arrived and glared at Lin Feng. Shui Ao spat out some ice chi. "You want to die?" At that moment, a beast was staring at Lin Feng. He suddenly jumped forwards and brandished his claws. They were extremely sharp. He moved faster than the eye, aiming at Lin Feng's head. Lin Feng raised his hand and slapped out. The ice around him exploded. "Ah!" The beast gave a horrible and painful scream, then collapsed and crashed to the ground, a crater appearing in the snow around him. His arms were hanging loose. He was coughing blood staining the white snow. Chapter 2283. I want some fun. Lin Feng took a step forwards. The snow crackled under his feet. Beasts were surrounding him, and the air hummed as bestial chi surrounded Lin Feng. Master Shiju, I brought Lin Feng regarding the agreement with the Snow Clan, said a dimly discernible voice in the sky. A silhouette condensed above the snowy territory. Then a bottle of wine appeared, but the alcohol froze. It's really cold here. The members of the Snow Clan looked at Shiju Laoxian coldly. They sensed he was extremely strong. How come he's not here? Shiju asked Shueao. Call Saint Ju, said Shueao. Then, he looked at Shiju Laoxian and said, You brought him here, that's impressive. But he will just humiliate himself. Is that so? Don't rush anyway. Wait for him and we'll see, smiled Shiju Laoxian easily. Shueao smiled coldly. All right, I won't rush, even if I can't wait to cripple his cultivation. Grandma told me to spare his life because of Zhetian. I won't kill him. Lin Feng remained silent. He didn't need to say anything. The only important thing would be the battle. We'll see if he deserves a battle against a genius of the Snow Clan first. How could he compete with someone who has a king-type body? Said someone slowly descending from the sky. He looked at Lin Feng coldly, his chi similar to Shueao's chi. He looked even more sinister, with extremely sharp teeth. He disappeared instantly, and reappeared in front of Lin Feng. He roared excitedly. Lin Feng saw a gigantic mouth open in front of him. He felt a bit oppressed. At the same time, terrifying claws slashed towards him. Lin Feng frowned. He raised his hands and put them in front of his chest. The strong cultivators of the Snow Clan watched him coldly. They could already imagine Lin Feng's lacerated corpse lying in the snow. Hee hee. The beast laughed. The strong cultivators of the Snow Clan were startled. They saw the gigantic beast bite Lin Feng's arm. They had thought the beast would manage to eat Lin Feng in one bite. However, Lin Feng had used his arm to block the attack, and the beast stopped moving. His teeth couldn't pierce through Lin Feng's arm. His teeth were terrifyingly sharp, but Lin Feng's arm was as hard as diamond. Is it fun? Lin Feng asked the gigantic beast. He looked unruffled, even though he was facing a terrifying beast. The beast looked at Lin Feng coldly. His head was as big as Lin Feng's body. He let go of Lin Feng's arms and bit towards his head. His roar made the whole area tremble. He hadn't thought Lin Feng would block his first attack, with just his arm. A sharp impact sounded out, and the crowd saw the gigantic body get slapped and smashed away. It was like Lin Feng had pinched a big insect. The beast howled angrily. The beasts around didn't look at Lin Feng in a disdainful way anymore, however. Shueao smiled broadly. Interesting. You're a celestial emperor. It's fun to compete with such people. In only 20 years, Lin Feng, initially a cultivator of the Huangqi layer, had become a celestial emperor. That was rare. He was a real genius. Shueao was pleasantly surprised. He couldn't wait to fight against Lin Feng now. Initially, he had thought the battle would be boring. When Lin Feng saw Shueao's broadly, he replied lightly, It's going to be fun indeed. Xue Shenfeng appeared behind Shueao. He glanced at Lin Feng coldly. Lin Feng had become a celestial emperor? How was that possible? He knew that 20 years before, during the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, Lin Feng was only an emperor. In the distance, snowflakes floated around, and the temperature continued falling. Snowflakes condensed and a silhouette appeared. It was Saint Ju. He looked at Shiju Laoxian and smiled. I didn't think you'd really bring him here. We agreed, so we have to do it, replied Shiju Laoxian, taking a swig. His breath smelled of alcohol. You sound very confident, Saint Ju remarked indifferently, while looking at Lin Feng. He became a celestial emperor within 20 years, that's rare. No wonder you were confident 20 years ago. You understood how talented he is. He does progress quickly. Then he looked at Shueao and said, Shueao, he almost has the same cultivation level as you. Don't make us lose face. Don't worry, Grandpa, said Shueao coldly. He stepped forwards. Footprints appeared in the snow behind him. In the distance, the old woman looked over there. Saint Ju is here. Go and watch. I just heard that he is a celestial emperor already. Zhetian's father is really talented. People like that are rare, said the old woman indifferently. Lin Feng, I've heard that name somewhere. Grandma, the winner of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds was called Lin Feng too, said someone next to her. All right. I don't remember their names. I just saw some battles. No wonder his name sounds familiar, whispered the old woman. Then she frowned. It can't be the same person though, right? The person next to her frowned, and after a minute the old woman hurriedly said, Let's go and see. She disappeared from there quickly. At the same time, Xue Jingxiao was already within the territory of the Snow Clan. When he arrived and saw all those people gathered in the same place, he was surprised and murmured, What's going on? Jingxiao, what's going on here? It's lively, said Dichan smiling. They both continued moving forwards. Xue Jingxiao said, Saint Ju. Jingxiao. Saint Ju looked surprised. He landed in front of Jingxiao and smiled. You came back too? Saint Ju, what's going on here? Asked Xue Jingxiao when he saw Lin Feng. He also glanced at Xue Ao. Suddenly he frowned and muttered, It's him. Xue Jingxiao and Zhetian had watched the battles of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds together. He remembered Lin Feng perfectly. He had been amazed by his performance. An agreement made 20 years ago, replied Saint Ju. Xue Jingxiao frowned. Even though he didn't know much about the agreement, he had heard about it. But the agreement was between the Snow Clan and 2 other people. Shiju Lao Xian and Meng Qing's husband, Zhetian's father. Was Lin Feng Zhetian's father? Did Zhetian recognize him back then? Whispered Xue Jingxiao. Saint Ju looked at him strangely and asked, Jingxiao, did you say something? A strong wind blew past. The old woman arrived too. When she saw Lin Feng, she was stunned. It was the man she had seen in some people's memories. How come it's you? Thought the old woman. She was astonished. The person who Saint Ju had made an agreement in the lower world with was him? That young man had finished first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. He was even the member of the Fortune Shrine. He really cared about Meng Qing. That young man wasn't just someone who had been humiliated in the lower world. He also had a social status. He was a core disciple in the Fortune Shrine. Saint Ju didn't understand and frowned. You? Haha. Shiju Lao Xian burst into laughter when he saw people's faces. He raised his gourd and took a big swig of booze and said, Your faces are so funny. I hope they'll be even more funny afterwards. Saint Ju, that's Lin Feng. He finished first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. He's a disciple of the Fortune Shrine now, said the old woman. Saint Ju's face stiffened in astonishment. Xue Ao was astonished too. However, it was what he wanted. It would be fun. Chapter 2284, Make Peace? Saint Ju was astonished as he looked at Lin Feng. At that moment, he started thinking that this young man wasn't a weakling after all. Back then, Lin Feng was talented, but as a saint, he couldn't think highly of Lin Feng, especially since he was a saint from the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. But now, 20 years had passed, and the difference between them had become much smaller. On top of that, he hadn't come to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds relying on Shiju Lao Xian. He had come to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds relying on himself. He had ranked first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, and become a core disciple of the Fortune Shrine. Fate was strange sometimes. Lin Feng had perfectly controlled his own life. He looked totally composed. Saint Ju could see that Lin Feng was furious, but he didn't show it. If he were Lin Feng, he would be furious too. He understood why Lin Feng was furious. But that was life, and life was cruel. Weaklings were humiliated often, and that was normal. However, he didn't despise Lin Feng anymore. He even thought highly of him now. If Lin Feng had been weak, they wouldn't even have spent a minute on him. But he had ranked first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. He was talented, and he was a member of the Fortune Shrine. It proved he was extremely strong and talented. Meng Qing and Zhetian were standing at the top of a snowy mountain. Behind them were many elders from the Snow Fox clan. Zhetian, that's your father, said Meng Qing, beaming with joy. Zhetian clenched his fists and nodded. Back then, the saint of the Snow clan nearly killed your father. He kidnapped me and forced me to come here. Now, your father has ranked first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, And he's a member of a shrine. He's going to pick us up. Many elders attach importance to you in the Snow Clan. They've made great efforts to raise you. I respect your choices, you must be grateful. However, I will remember St. Ju's callousness my entire life. He wanted to kill your father back then. I will never forgive him, and Shui Ao declared Meng Qing. She didn't say anything bad about the Snow Fox clan. The elders sighed. Meng Qing had grown up outside. Then she had been kidnapped and forced to return. She didn't have any sense of belonging. It was to be expected. When he was a child, Zhetian didn't spend much time with his mother. However, she remained his mother. They had the same blood. But he had the blood of the Snow Clan too. Yes, Zhetian nodded. He couldn't be enemies with the Snow Clan. He had many friends here. He had lived there his whole life. They had raised him. Many people in the Snow Clan liked him. When he was a child, he understood a lot, and he knew that people from the Snow Clan liked him, especially people from the Snow Fox clan. He was their prized descendant. Meng Qing didn't say much. She just gazed into the distance. She didn't require anything from Zhetian. She didn't want him to disown his clan. The old woman was annoyed. If she had known that Lin Feng would succeed like that in life, she would have asked Shui Ao to go and pick them up, and she would have brought Lin Feng back to the Snow Clan as well. But now it was too late. 20 years had passed and things were different. Nobody could have anticipated that in the past. She didn't even know who Lin Feng was back then. St. Ju felt bad too. A genius from the Fortune Shrine. This was indeed troublesome for the Snow Clan. If Lin Feng died at some point, it'd be great. Otherwise he might become important in the shrine, and the Snow Clan would then have problems. But the Snow Clan couldn't kill Lin Feng. Everybody knew he was from the Fortune Shrine. Nobody would dare kill him. However, St. Ju was a saint. He had gone through a lot in life. He quickly thought of several solutions. Finally, he had an idea and said to Lin Feng, "Since you're already so strong, no matter who wins or loses today, you can take Meng Qing away with you. Even though she is a queen in the Snow Clan, we agreed to let her leave with you. Regarding Zhetian, you can perform your duties as a father. However, the Snow Clan needs him. He'll have a high position in the Snow Clan in the future. Regarding you and the Snow Clan, you have nothing to do with the Snow Clan. You're just related to Zhetian," said St. Ju. Ju Lao Xian looked at him strangely. He admired St. Ju at that moment. He had thought of so many things in a few seconds. How quick-witted. He would allow Lin Feng to take Meng Qing with him and perform his duties as a father. It was a compromise. He had recognized Lin Feng's talent. He didn't want to offend Lin Feng and the Fortune Shrine. At the same time, he said Lin Feng had nothing to do with the Snow Clan to protect themselves, because they knew all the shrines wanted to kill the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. He wanted to draw a clear line between Lin Feng and the Snow Clan. It was the best plan for the Snow Clan. If Lin Feng was talented or died, it would have nothing to do with them. That way they offended nobody. He had even accepted letting one of their members who had a king-type body leave the Snow Clan. Lin Feng understood why St. Ju proposed that. While on top of that, they wanted to keep Zhetian. In the past, he had nearly killed Lin Feng, kidnapped his wife, and now, as if nothing had happened back then, he was nice and wanted to come to a compromise. Therefore Lin Feng smiled and said, "I can accept, but you have to accept my requirements too." "What requirements?" "First, many people tried to kill me back then in Qitian Holy Town. I don't know where the insignificant ones have disappeared to except for you and Shui Ao. So you must kill yourselves. Second, the order must have come from high up in the hierarchy. The one who gave that order must kneel down in front of me and apologize to me and my wife, and be jailed for 20 years. If you can do those things, I'll accept your proposition." Everybody was astonished. How insane. He wanted a saint and a genius who had a king-type body to kill themselves. "You're dreaming, I think," said St. Ju, staring at Lin Feng. "Don't you think you're dreaming too?" replied Lin Feng coldly. They had tried to kill him. They had kidnapped his wife. They had made him wait for 20 years. And now, because he was a disciple of the Fortune Shrine, they wanted to be friends with him and act as if nothing had happened back in the days? That was just ridiculous. St. Ju looked at Lin Feng. After remaining silent for a few seconds, he said, "You're young, why be so stubborn? Let's be happy. And think before talking. What you do or say could have consequences." Cough cough. Zhu Lao Xian coughed his alcohol and rolled his eyes. "Old buddy, if your disciple who has a king-type body dies, you won't be that happy." Saint Zhu looked at Zhu Lao Xian coldly and said, "I am merciful. If we did as we agreed 20 years ago, he wouldn't stand a chance." "Don't be merciful. Let's do as we agreed," said Lin Feng indifferently, glancing at Shuai. "By the way, if I inadvertently kill your disciple who has a king-type body, will you go against the agreement?" Saint Zhu looked at Lin Feng coldly. He saw Lin Feng smile thinly and said, "Empty words. If you died, would the fortune shrine let us off? If I die against him, it means I deserved it. The fortune shrine will not do anything stupid for someone incompetent and weak," said Lin Feng indifferently. Saint Zhu understood. "If I die, it'll be my fault," said Shuai coldly. Saint Zhu nodded. "If you kill Shuai, the Snow Clan will not get involved." "I can fight happily then," Lin Feng said indifferently. He shot forwards. A terrifying wind started blowing around him. The snow under Lin Feng's feet exploded. A mighty strength surrounded him. His blood started boiling. "Your Dao power is not bad," said Lin Feng indifferently. That Dao power would have made an ordinary great emperor explode instantly. It was as if the earth and sky were about to explode. Lin Feng was shaking as the snow exploded around him. Shuai threw himself at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was surrounded by a layer of ice and starting to freeze. Shuai wanted to immobilize him as he condensed his best attack. He wanted to kill Lin Feng as quickly as possible. "That little boy is going to die," agreed the crowd from the Snow Clan. Shuai's attack was overwhelming. Lin Feng had said that if he died, it'd mean that he was incompetent and that the fortune shrine wouldn't get involved. He had asked for it. He's using a saint's technique from the Ao clan. "That attack will make Lin Feng's body explode," said the knowledgeable among the crowd, staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng sensed the destructive energies around him. This attack was dangerous. He condensed his god strength and attacked too. At the same time, he also condensed terrifying energies into his hands. Shuai frowned. With his attack, he could pose a threat to Saint Emperors, but he hadn't managed to destroy Lin Feng. He shouted furiously, his voice making people's eardrums tremble. Lights flickered. Lin Feng disappeared and reappeared above Shuai. An ominous hand appeared, containing terrifying and destructive energies. The hand moved down toward Shuai. "Die," said Lin Feng emotionlessly. There was an explosion, and Shuai was smashed down and crashed into the ground. "Ah!" he screamed, and people's hearts started pounding. Lin Feng descended from the sky and continued attacking. A gigantic hand crashed onto Shuai. Blood splashed and stained the snow around him. The crowd was just stunned, astonished. "Hee, it's not because a dog barks loudly that he's dangerous," said Lin Feng, landing on Shuai's body. He was standing on Shuai proudly. Everyone could understand what it felt to have someone standing on them like that. When a dog barks, how humiliating. Chapter 2285. Can't withstand a single attack. A strong wind was blowing. People encircled Lin Feng. The people from the Ao clan couldn't stand it anymore. They released chi to surround Lin Feng. They looked furious. Lin Feng just glanced at them coldly. Shuai had the sensation a mountain which weighed millions of jin was weighing down on his body. Shuai roared furiously. He turned into a gigantic mastiff, trying to attack, and his strength penetrated into Lin Feng's body. He wanted to counterattack. "Still barking," shouted Lin Feng furiously. He was staring at Shuai's gigantic eyes. There was another explosion. A crater appeared around them. Snowflakes flew in all directions. Shuai was crawling on the ground, blood dripping from him. His muscles kept twitching. "Insolent!" shouted the members of the Snow Clan. "Piss off," said Lin Feng coldly. Chi rolled out and swept them away. He looked at Shuai's eyes again. 20 years ago, Shuai considered himself unexcelled in the world. He thought he was so imposing and awe-inspiring. He had thought he could kill Lin Feng instantly if he wished. Now 20 years later, everything had changed. Change could be so mysterious sometimes. What? Have you forgotten what the Saint of the Snow clan said? Said Shiju Laoxian indifferently. The members of the Ao clan all pulled long faces. Saint Ju and Lin Feng had agreed on a battle to the death. But nobody had thought Lin Feng could kill Shui Ao. Even though Lin Feng had ranked first at the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, back then, he was only an emperor. Back then, Shui Ao was already at the top of the Diqi layer. They had never thought that Shui Ao could look so weak in front of Lin Feng, or that he couldn't withstand a single attack, or that Lin Feng would even stand on him. Saint Ju, the old woman, they all pulled long faces. Because of something they had agreed on 20 years before. Losing a cultivator, who had a king-type body, would be tragic. Lin Feng, even though the agreement is more important, please be merciful. It would be good for both the Snow Clan and you, said Saint Ju. He regretted what he had just said. The Fortune Shrine would support Lin Feng if they took back their words. Oh, it would be good for me too? Said Lin Feng mockingly. Think about it. It's not over. We don't have only one cultivator with a king-type body, said Saint Ju indifferently. At that moment, he sounded firm. Or at least he tried to sound firm to intimidate Lin Feng. He had no choice. Let Shui Ao off. Let's fight. If you win against me, you can take Meng Qing and Zhetian away with you, said someone behind Lin Feng. He turned around and saw Shui Jingxiao, who looked ready and determined to fight. He wasn't surprised that Shui Ao had lost. Shiju Laoxian had warned Lin Feng that the Snow Clan had a terrifyingly strong cultivator, who had a king-type body. That was probably that guy. Lin Feng could sense that he was indeed very strong. If I don't let him off, will the Snow Clan go against our agreement? And if I win against you, maybe the Snow Clan will not let me take them away with me, replied Lin Feng equally calmly. However, Shui Jingxiao still looked composed when he heard Lin Feng. As if nothing could affect him. He just shook his head and said, let him off. When we fight, if I win against you, I will also be merciful. Same here. If I win against you, I'll let you live, replied Lin Feng prosaically as well. Regarding Shui Ao, I will let him off and I hope that the Snow Clan will be honest and upright. Then, he released God's strength, which penetrated into Shui Ao's body. Ah! Shui Ao screamed. When the Snow Clan saw that Shui Ao had lost his ability to fight, and was just lying limply on the ground, they looked elsewhere. They couldn't stand seeing him like that. He had a king-type body. How humiliating. The strong cultivators of the Ao clan were furious. They released their qi, but managed to restrain themselves. Shiju Laoxian had brought Lin Feng there, but Lin Feng was backed up by the Fortune Shrine. They couldn't do anything. Lin Feng hadn't violated their agreement. Even if he killed Shui Ao, they couldn't do anything against him. The shrine wouldn't let anyone kill their core disciples like that. Back then you barked loudly. From now on, we'll see if you continue barking loudly, said Lin Feng, still standing on Shui Ao's body. Shui Ao had almost fainted. He only had a few threads of qi left and was badly injured. Even saints couldn't help him recover. All they could do was spend lots of resources and ask a shrine for help, or he wouldn't be able to recover ever. They hadn't thought that back then in Qitian Holy Town they had been cruel. Back then, they had considered Lin Feng as a worthless thing they could kill instantly. Saint Ju looked at Lin Feng coldly and thought, Lin Feng, we were nice to you, but you refused to do things properly. Even if the Snow Clan doesn't kill you, someone else can kill you. In the distance, more young people had appeared. When they saw this, they were surprised. Someone shouted, Brother Jingxiao, what's going on in the Snow Clan? 2 more people arrived. Shui Jingxiao was surprised. Some were acquaintances from the Fire Shrine. Nothing. The Snow Clan has some things to sort out, said Shui Jingxiao calmly. The young man at the front smiled and nodded. Then he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng. He looked amused. The Fire Shrine and the Snow Clan were different. The shrines wanted to kill the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. And the Fire Shrine was in charge of killing Lin Feng. They had dispersed some strong cultivators to look for him, and they all had seen him or seen images of him. Therefore, when they saw him, they recognized him. There is something that was nowhere to be found even after painstakingly exhausting all of one's energy and effort to look for it, said the strong cultivator of the fire shrine, smiling broadly. Surprisingly, they had found Lin Feng in the Snow Clan. The fire shrine had spent so much effort looking for Lin Feng. They had even sent some saint emperors to dark clouds to find him. Hua Xingzi arrived too. The other young man was one of his fellow disciples. They were both outstanding young men of the fire shrine. Di Jiang, Xue Jingxiao, and Hua Xingzi were of the same generation. Even though Xue Jingxiao wasn't a member in any of the shrines, he was very talented, and half a year before, he had become a saint emperor. He was less than 100 years old, and already a saint emperor. Usually such people only appeared in shrines. When Lin Feng saw Hua Xingzi, he immediately understood who those people were. The fire shrine wants to kill me. I hadn't thought I'd see them here. I can't stay in the Snow Clan for too long, thought Lin Feng. He said to Xue Jingxiao, let's fight now. He had to fight quickly and leave. Otherwise the shrines would wait for him in the region. A terrifying fire chi shot towards Lin Feng. The layer of ice on Lin Feng's body melted instantly. Hua Xingzi raised his left hand. He was holding a very, very long fire mace which kept spitting out flames at Lin Feng. The members of the Snow Clan didn't stop him. Hua Xingzi threw himself at Lin Feng. The members of the Snow Clan didn't think highly of Hua Xingzi, so they didn't warn him. Xue Ao had just suffered a crushing defeat against Lin Feng. And even though Hua Xingzi was also a celestial emperor, he was much weaker than Xue Ao. He couldn't fight against Lin Feng. If he had seen Lin Feng and Xue Ao's battle, he wouldn't have started a fight against him. However, it was too late now. Lin Feng grabbed his fire mace with his bare hands. Hua Xingzi's face was hilarious. Back! Shouted the other young men of the fire shrine. Even though Hua Xingzi didn't want to admit he was weaker, he gave up his fire mace and moved back. Unfortunately, he saw someone moving towards him. A terrifying fireball moved towards Lin Feng. At the same time, Hua Xingzi condensed a terrifying saint's fire in his fingers and grabbed towards Lin Feng. Piss off! Lin Feng condensed death Dao in his fist. Hua Xingzi started trembling when he sensed the horrifying death strength. A silhouette flickered, grabbed Hua Xingzi and took him somewhere else. Phew! Hua Xingzi took a deep breath. He could still sense the death chi in his body. How dangerous! He was staring at Lin Feng coldly. How reckless, said Lin Feng calmly. He rolled up his sleeves and turned around. Hua Xingzi felt extremely humiliated. He was a genius from the fire shrine, and someone dared despise him like that. He didn't know it was Lin Feng that he had fought in the Void Phoenix clan. Or he would have understood that Lin Feng had been merciful during their first battle. What would he think if he knew the truth? Chapter 2286. Saints can also be like that. Hua Shang was staring at Lin Feng. Like Hua Xingzi, he had flames in his eyes. 10 years before, on the stage of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, Lin Feng had fought against Hua Xingzi. Back then, Lin Feng had also fought against Gu Xianfeng from the Demon Shrine. Back then, Hua Xingzi and Gu Xianfeng's strength was about the same. 10 years later, Lin Feng could easily defeat Hua Xingzi in one punch. It meant that Lin Feng, champion of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, was stronger than the geniuses the Fire Shrine and the Demon Shrine had raised. He wasn't the only one in that case then. Chu Chunxiu was also extremely strong, much stronger than Hua Xingzi. The second and fourth cultivators, Kong Ming and Zhou Rongman, were also much stronger. They had disappeared for so many years, but if they came back, they would probably be much stronger than the shrine's people. Hua Shang took a step forwards. He was also a genius from the Fire Shrine, and he had been a member of the Fire Shrine longer than Hua Xingzi. He was of the same generation as Xue Jingxiao. He was also a saint emperor, and his fighting abilities were astonishing. Brother Hua Shang, said Xue Jingxiao calmly, this battle is between me and him. Hua Shang was surprised, but he smiled at Xue Jingxiao. Since it's that way, please, brother Jingxiao. Jingxiao, no rush. If Hua Xingzi wants to try and fight against someone who has defeated Hua Xingzi, why not let him try first? He probably won't be able to try after your battle, because Lin Feng will be dead already, said Saint Ju indifferently. He had faith in Xue Jingxiao, much more than in Xueao. Xue Jingxiao had broken through to the Tiandi layer before the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. So his cultivation was very stable at the time of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Now he was a Saint Emperor. Xue Jingxiao's fighting abilities were much better than Xueao's. Xueao was a good-for-nothing in front of Xue Jingxiao. When Lin Feng heard Saint Ju, he glanced at him coldly. He understood Saint Ju was evil. He had probably asked the strong cultivators of the fire shrine to kill him. And now he was wasting time to talk to them telepathically. Lin Feng could guess what they were saying even if he couldn't hear them. No need to make things complicated, said Lin Feng, staring at Saint Ju. Why fight in turns? You're too kind. I can fight against your disciple and a fighter of the fire shrine at the same time. No problem. Lin Feng was pointing at Xue Jingxiao and Huashang. Everybody was astonished. Lin Feng was crazy. Xue Jingxiao and Huashang were extremely strong, and he dared challenge them in a 2-on-1 battle. Zhu Laoxian was sitting there. He looked indifferent and continued drinking. He smiled drunkenly and said, I agree, let's not waste time. Let's finish this quickly. I have other things to do. Xue Jingxiao shot forwards. Joining hands with someone? Ridiculous. He was a king of the Snow Clan. He had a king-type body. He would become an important pillar of the Snow Clan in the future. Joining hands with another cultivator to fight against someone whose cultivation level was lower than his? Biggest joke in the world. Huashang didn't agree either. Even if the fire shrine wanted to kill Lin Feng, he couldn't join hands with someone to fight against him. He was a terrifying genius of the fire shrine, and proud too. He had never joined hands with anyone to fight against someone else. On the contrary, his entire life, people had joined hands to fight against him. Xue Jingxiao jumped forwards, snowflakes appearing around Lin Feng. Lin Feng felt cold enough for his soul to freeze. Lin Feng shivered. How cold? That's a true ice Dao, thought Lin Feng. He released God's strength and Dao power. Xue Jingxiao looked totally composed. Lin Feng felt a tinge of danger. Xue Jingxiao was a Saint Emperor. In the continent of the 9 clouds, the lower world, he would be considered a god. Snow and frost powder, said Xue Jingxiao lazily. The atmosphere around him suddenly started freezing. Lin Feng's inner and outer body started freezing. His soul also started freezing. Even his cosmic energies started turning into ice. How strong, said Zhu Laoxian after another swig. His eyes were twinkling. Xue Jingxiao was really strong. He could freeze the cosmic energies of the earth and sky, and turn them into ice strength which he could use for himself. If his opponents controlled any other kind of cosmic energy, then they became unable to fight, because he turned their cosmic energies into ice cosmic energies, which he used for himself. It was a frightening power. Xue Jingxiao shot forwards Lin Feng. Lin Feng stood there calmly. A layer of ice had appeared around his body. Xue Jingxiao turned into a beam of light, condensing an incredible amount of ice cosmic energies in his hand and raising it. He wanted to kill Lin Feng in one blow. Lin Feng suddenly moved. He suddenly released God's strength. He raised his hand, and the air around them exploded. Xue Jingxiao's hand turned into an ice and frost dragon, which moved to take on Lin Feng's attack. The attack was explosive and his energies blotted out the sky. The destructive ice chi penetrated into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng flashed away. The ice strength turned into a gigantic axe containing weapon intent. The ice energies kept exploding around him. The gigantic axe sliced through the air, and the gigantic ice dragon. The crowd was astonished. Lin Feng controlled ice cosmic energy. Die, said Lin Feng, staring at Xue Jingxiao in a cold and detached way. Death strength penetrated into Xue Jingxiao's body. Millions of death stamps pounded on him. Xue Jingxiao felt pressured. How could ice cosmic energy stop me? Remarked Lin Feng apathetically. He flashed forwards. The ice cosmic strength turned into death strength and descended from the sky. A black vortex appeared, smelling like death. A strong hurricane made of death strength appeared around Lin Feng. He looked like a death god. Lin Feng disappeared, and darkness appeared in front of Xue Jingxiao. He saw a death cauldron in front of him. Snow of grievance, sighed Xue Jingxiao. The snowy landscape around them filled with grief. Lin Feng suddenly felt sad, and his soul started freezing again. Death oppression. The death cauldron oppressed Xue Jingxiao. Death strength penetrated into his body. More death cauldrons appeared and plunged into him. Xue Jingxiao's face turned gray. His life was being corroded. He wanted to escape. He suddenly felt powerless. Xue Jingxiao roused himself with a roar. Snow energies kept attacking Lin Feng's cauldrons and Lin Feng himself. Lin Feng just grunted coldly. His death cauldrons turned into smaller cauldrons, but they were extremely oppressive. At the same time, Xue Jingxiao's head was trembling as if he had had a stroke. Lin Feng was staring at him like a death god. "That's enough," shouted Saint Ju furiously. His voice made Lin Feng tremble. Lin Feng was suddenly forced away violently. He crashed onto the ground farther away, and continued sliding backwards. He raised his head and looked at Saint Ju. He smiled and said, "Even saints talk shit, I see." Saint Ju looked at him coolly. Lin Feng was so strong, and his death Dao was incredible, especially his death oppression attack. "The battles we agreed on 20 years ago are over. Snow Clan, give me my wife and son back," said Lin Feng calmly. Saint Ju was just staring at Lin Feng. He remained silent. Lin Feng frowned and said coldly, "Or do you intend to break the agreement?" "What kind of strength did you use a moment ago?" said Saint Ju. Lin Feng frowned even more and said, "Release my wife and son." "No rush. You're so talented. I think you should spend a few days in the Snow Clan. What do you think, Lin Feng?" said Saint Ju with a smile. Lin Feng looked more and more furious. That guy was a saint and he was shameless. "You have the time needed to burn a joss stick. If you don't release my wife and son, I can guarantee that I will finish the 2 battles completely." "I was merciful enough," said Lin Feng coldly, releasing death intent. Saint Ju was stupefied. Lin Feng was threatening him. Everybody was astonished. The atmosphere became really tense. Lin Feng was threatening a saint. He was threatening the Snow Clan. Snowflakes continued falling from the sky. The temperature kept falling. Everybody was staring at him. He had just defeated the first king of the Snow Clan, Xue Jingxiao. Chapter 2287. Killing the king-type body. Lin Feng knew why Saint Ju was wasting time. He didn't intend to release his wife and son. And now he was inviting him to spend some days with them? That was just a fool's play. "Lin Feng, Ling Long is from the Snow Clan. The blood of the Snow Clan is flowing in Jition's veins. You should be friends with the Snow Clan. Why are you so aggressive?" said Saint Ju. He was getting nervous, but he forced himself to keep calm. He ignored the fact that Lin Feng was threatening him and the Snow Clan. 20 years ago, you didn't think that way," said Lin Feng. When he saw that Saint Ju tried to look calm and aloof, he was even more furious. If this guy hadn't been a saint, Lin Feng wouldn't have wasted time with him. At that moment, Huixingzi and the other members of the Fire Shrine had probably contacted the Fire Shrine and informed them that they had found Lin Feng in the Snow Clan. "The Snow Clan is really disappointing," said Shiju Laoxian with a sigh. 20 years ago, you considered everybody and everything beneath your notice. You were mindlessly aggressive. You wanted to slaughter him in Qitian Holy Town. Then we agreed on something. Now, you have lost both battles, and you're breaking the rules of the agreement. I will inform everyone that the Snow Clan is shameless, everywhere I go." Shiju Laoxian shook his head and sighed. Saint Ju's face didn't change. He was furious on the inside though. He really wanted to kill both Lin Feng and Shiju Laoxian. Actually, Lin Feng was really talented. If they had known that 20 years before, they would have never offended him. At most, they would have drawn a clear line between them, especially now, since the shrines were looking for Lin Feng to kill him. But now regretting what they had done in the past was useless. They had to solve the situation. Lin Feng's existence was dangerous for the Snow Clan, especially since he was becoming stronger so damn quickly. 20 years ago, he was an insignificant emperor, and Xue Jingxiao was at the top of the Diqi layer. 20 years later, Lin Feng defeated Xue Jingxiao. Lin Feng closed his eyes. Snowflakes fell onto his body. He tried to calm down. Time passed, each second seeming endless. It was the Snow Clan. They could kill him easily, but they didn't because Lin Feng was a member of the Fortune Shrine. However, if Lin Feng didn't leave, the strong cultivators of the fire shrine would kill him, and the Snow Clan wouldn't have to bear the responsibility for that. The time needed for a joss stick to burn was short, but at that moment, time passed so slowly. In the distance, some people arrived. Someone said to Lin Feng, "Lin Feng, the members of the fire shrine are here." Lin Feng snapped opened his eyes. They were filled with death strength. Death intent floated around his body. He said coldly, "Since the Snow Clan decided to break the agreement, the battles are not over." White lights flickered. The crowd was astonished. The strong cultivators of the Snow Clan were astonished and all grimaced. Lin Feng had come with some strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine. They had been there for a while already. "Everybody, the Snow Clan has never offended the Fortune Shrine," said St. Ju. His face stiffened. He hoped the fire shrine would move fast. But Lin Feng had brought so many strong cultivators from the Fortune Shrine. They attached great importance to him. The Snow Clan had never thought that in only 20 years, a shrine would attach so much importance to him. The Snow Clan shouldn't get involved. He's our disciple, and we don't like it when people bully our disciples. If anyone dares attack him, apart from those two people, other people will die. If anyone dares attack him, they'll die, said the strong cultivators coldly. The members of the Snow Clan felt cold themselves. They had not thought the Fortune Shrine would do so much for Lin Feng. She began to whistle. St. Ju's face finally changed. He had not thought the Fortune Shrine would do so much for Lin Feng. "Wait, we'll release his son and wife," said St. Ju. "Lin Feng, I'll release Ling Long and Jitian." Lin Feng glanced at St. Ju coldly. He had wasted enough time. Now so he agreed. Some strong cultivators of the fire shrine were probably there already. "It's too late. If you release them, it's good. If you don't, it's the same," said Lin Feng, jumping forwards. He looked at the cultivators of the Ao clan standing front of Shui Ao. He had been merciful. He hadn't killed Shui Ao, and he hadn't even really thought of killing Shui Jingxiao. The Snow Clan had gone too far. He truly hated them. "Lin Feng, what are you doing?" asked the old woman hastily. She released a terrifying and oppressive strength. It was Saint's energy. That woman seemed to be in charge of many things in the Snow Clan. And she was probably a saint too. "You want to destroy the Snow Clan?" hissed the old woman coldly. The ice around her exploded and vanished. She turned around and looked at an ancient saint floating there. The Fortune Shrine had sent 2 saints. With Shiju Lao Xian, they were 3 on Lin Feng's side. 3 saints could compete with the Snow Clan. But would the Snow Clan dare fight against them? The Snow Clan wasn't a shrine. If a shrine destroyed them, it would be too tragic. They couldn't play with shrines. The Snow Clan hadn't thought that the Fortune Shrine would send 2 saints for Lin Feng. And they had also sent many saint emperors. It was too domineering. Those people could easily destroy a holy sage ruler clan. The Snow Clan had severely underestimated Lin Feng's position within the Fortune Shrine. Lin Feng had informed the Fortune Shrine that he had to go to the Snow Clan. And the Fortune Shrine knew that it might draw the other shrines' attention. So they had watched the Snow Clan carefully. Lin Feng was a forbidden person. He couldn't die. The others could die. They didn't care as much. The diviner had been cautious. Apart from the 2 saints in the Snow Clan, just outside of the Snow Clan were more people from the Fortune Shrine, and preventing another group of people from entering. Those people were from the Fire Shrine, and they were extremely strong. Luckily, the Fortune Shrine had intercepted them. A saint, 3 saint emperors, many celestial emperors. They knew that Lin Feng was there, so they had sent many strong cultivators. But when they noticed the cultivators of the Fortune Shrine, they understood that their group wasn't enough. All the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds were targets. The shrines wanted to kill all of them, because they all posed a threat to them. The shrines also thought that the top 5 cultivators were even more dangerous, and the top 3 were even more dangerous. Lin Feng was one of their most important targets. They had dispatched people to the lower world to find Lin Feng, and they had sent many strong people to the Snow Clan today. "We're going to the Snow Clan. What is this supposed to mean, Fortune Shrine?" demanded a saint of the Fire Shrine calmly. "The Fortune Shrine is sorting out some issues in the Snow Clan right now. When we're done you can go in," replied a saint of the Fortune Shrine indifferently. "Ridiculous. We have to wait, because the Fortune Shrine is sorting out some issues in the Snow Clan, said the other one, smiling coldly. If you don't want to wait, you can leave and come back some other time, answered the Saint of the Fortune Shrine indifferently. Both of them knew what they were doing. The members of the Fire Shrine were surprised that the Fortune Shrine was really making great efforts to protect the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. They had also received a message from Huishang, informing them that 2 saints from the Fortune Shrine were inside. Lin Feng is even more dangerous than the others, it seems, thought that saint. Of course, he couldn't be sure. The Fortune Shrine had covered things up back then. They had sent Chu Chun Xiu to Ganji's time in the Supreme Animal World, so everybody thought that Chu Chun Xiu was most likely the forbidden person. But well after that, the sky had broken in purple clouds and forbidden strength had appeared there. So the probability that Chu Chun Xiu was the forbidden person had decreased. Now maybe they were pretending again. The members of the Fire Shrine said nothing. They could only wait. In the Snow Clan, Lin Feng slowly walked toward Shuai-ao. Shuai-ao grimaced. Saint Ju looked at him coldly. Lin Feng, shouted Saint Ju. However, as he shouted, Lin Feng raised his hand and punched out in Shuai-ao's direction explosively. Shuai-ao screamed. He was now terrified of Lin Feng's death strength. Lin Feng wanted to kill him. He had a king-type body. Lin Feng was going to kill him in front of everybody else. He had never thought such a thing would be possible. You can only blame yourself, Lin Feng told Saint Ju. He released death qi, which drove into Shuai-ao's body. Millions of death stamps and death Dao assaulted him. Ah! Shuai-ao howled furiously. Try and dare, shouted Saint Ju explosively. You're waiting for people from the Fire Shrine to kill me, and you think I won't dare? More death strength surrounded Shuai-ao. He could only scream pitifully. Slowly, his voice became weaker and weaker, and then he disappeared. Only death strength remained where he was standing seconds before. Chapter 2288. Shrine's confrontation. Lin Feng had just killed Shuai-ao, a cultivator who had a king-type body, a king of the Snow Clan. Before Meng Qing came back to the Snow Clan, they only had 2 people who had king-type bodies. Xue Jingxiao was the strongest one, and he was definitely going to become a saint. Shuai-ao would have probably become a saint too. Then, Meng Qing had been brought back to the Snow Clan, and her child also had potential to become a saint. That would have been 4 monarchs in the Snow Clan. With 4 people like that, the Snow Clan would have risen. But just as Zhetian was becoming stronger, Meng Qing's husband, Zhetian's father, had returned. He was secretive, but he had finished first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. He was a core disciple of the Fortune Shrine. Now he wanted Zhetian and Meng Qing back. He had killed Shuai-ao. If Lin Feng took his wife and son away, only one person with a king-type body would remain in the Snow Clan. Xue Jingxiao. At the same time, Saint Ju's heart twitched. He had just seen Lin Feng kill Shuai-ao. He had gone too far. He wanted to kill Lin Feng. However, the saints of the Fortune Shrine oppressed him. He couldn't do anything. You went too far, said the old woman, staring at the saints of the Fortune Shrine. Lin Feng had just killed one of their cultivators who had a king-type body after all. One who had potential to become a saint. Went too far. Don't you think you have gone too far already? Said the saint of the Fortune Shrine coldly. The old woman's face froze. Of course, if they bullied other people could bully them too. At that moment, the saint of the Fortune Shrine suddenly turned to Lin Feng and said to him telepathically, Lin Feng, we'll help you find them. The Fire Shrine's people are here, and some people from the Ice and Snow Shrine are also coming. Lin Feng was astonished. He glanced at Saint Ju coldly. How cruel. Now the Ice and Snow Shrine also knew that he was there. Saint Ju hadn't wasted time on his side. Meng Qing, Zhetian, come here. If anyone dares stop you, we'll kill them, shouted Lin Feng. The members of the Snow Clan were astonished. His voice echoed far away. Meng Qing grabbed Zhetian's hand and smiled broadly. Lin Feng had come to save them finally. For Meng Qing, the Snow Clan was nothing. She had only suffered there. After a short time, Meng Qing arrived next to Lin Feng with Zhetian. Lin Feng's death intent disappeared. He just smiled broadly. 20 years, 20 years had passed. He had finally come to the Snow Clan to take his wife and son back. He slowly turned around and looked at Jitian. 20 years, he had almost become a real man. "Father," said Jitian. His cheeks were red, as it was only the second time he had seen his father. "Little boy, you're a grown-up now," Lin Feng smiled. Jitian nodded and said, "Father, during the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, I saw you, but I couldn't recognize you." "Oh." Lin Feng smiled and clapped Jitian's shoulders. "Are you willing to follow me and leave your home?" "Yes," said Jitian, nodding. Then he turned around and looked at the elders of the Snow Fox clan. He knelt down and said, "Grandfathers, I will always remember your kindness. We shall meet again." Jitian stood up and bowed. The old men sighed. The Snow Clan had kidnapped Mengqing. Why? But now it was too late. They had seen Jitian grow up. They had great affection for him. Now they had to separate. Everything was turning into an illusion, though. That dream was collapsing before their eyes. Saint Ju and the others all grimaced. Jitian was Lin Feng's son. The Snow Clan had raised him for 20 years, and now he had agreed to leave with Lin Feng. "Jitian, you're going against the Snow Clan's principles?" said the old woman coldly. Jitian replied, "Grandma, when I was a baby, I already knew that my mom had grown up outside, and that you had kidnapped her to take her back. Initially, you wanted my mom to get married with Uncle Jing Xiao. You don't like her. You made her suffer. You made her live away from the man she loves, my father. 20 years ago, you also tried to kill my father. I know those things. But the Snow Fox clan elders were good to me. I am grateful for the education the Snow Clan offered me. Therefore, since you didn't kill my father, I will not consider the Snow Clan as my enemies. But if you try to hurt my parents again, things will change," said Jitian slowly. He looked at Lin Feng and said, "Father, even though children can't say much, I have one request. No matter what in the future, don't hurt people from the Snow Fox clan." "If they don't try to kill me, I promise I won't," Lin Feng agreed easily. Lin Feng was satisfied. Jitian attached importance to feelings. Lin Feng was happy. He didn't want his son to be cruel and heartless. Jitian turned around and looked at the members of the Snow Fox clan. "Grandfathers, you heard what my father said. I hope you won't try to kill him." He smiled, and the elders of the Snow Fox clan just sighed. "All right, let's go," said Lin Feng. Lin Feng, Mengqing, and Jitian's silhouettes flickered. The strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine followed. The members of the Snow Clan were astonished, stunned, and dumbstruck. In one day, they had lost 3 people with king-type bodies, and now they couldn't get them back. In the future, Jitian might even become an enemy of the Snow Clan. Because of that, the future of the Snow Clan was compromised. Lin Feng didn't fight against Xue Jingxiao again. Xue Jingxiao hadn't done anything fishy. He had had a fair battle against him. Besides, he didn't want to waste any more time. The cultivators of the Fire Shrine and the Ice and Snow Shrine had come. It wasn't a game anymore. The Fortune Shrine's saints glanced at Huoxingzi and Huoshang, and suddenly, strength surrounded them. They said, "Come with us." "What's that supposed to mean, masters?" "You understand perfectly. If the Fire Shrine doesn't do anything dodgy, you will be fine," said one saint indifferently. The oppressive strength surrounded the group of young men from the Fire Shrine. If the Fire Shrine tried to kill Lin Feng, the Fortune Shrine would kill all those young disciples. A strong wind started blowing, and they left. Very quickly, the members of the Fortune Shrine, including Lin Feng, had departed the Snow Clan. The people from the Snow Clan were too astonished. Nobody moved. What a tragedy for the Snow Clan. Phew, why? Saint Ju closed his eyes. What he had done 20 years before was such a mistake. He had thought he'd help the Snow Clan rise, but actually it was declining. He regretted. He had missed the chance of having a genius on their side too. What a mistake. He was cold and proud, so he hadn't noticed that young man's talent. "I made a mistake," whispered Saint Ju. The old woman remembered Xue Shenfeng. She was furious. "Saint Ju, it's not your fault. I made a mistake back then. I underestimated him too," said the old woman. Maybe it's nobody's fault. Maybe it's just fate. He's from the lower world, and he became so strong in only 20 years. That was so strange, replied Saint Ju calmly. He was a saint, he could control himself. Very quickly, he had only one thought: kill Lin Feng. They had reached a point of no return, and killing Lin Feng was the best thing they could do. At the same time, outside of the Snow Clan, two groups faced one another. So many strong cultivators, including saints. The strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine and the Ice and Snow Shrine were there, waiting just outside. At the same time, they had inspected the Snow Clan with their godly awareness. Even though it was 30,000 li, they were able to watch the whole territory with their godly awareness. They were there to kill. Chapter 2289. Terrifying High-Speed Pursuit. The strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine were staring at their enemies. They had to remain vigilant. Lin Feng and the others had come to the Snow Clan voluntarily, and now they were facing him. This was a very rare opportunity, especially since he was probably the one who had a forbidden body. In terms of percentages, they considered the probability that Lin Feng was the forbidden person at 30%. Lin Feng 30%, Kong Ming 30%, Zhou Rongman 10%, Chu Chunxiu 10%, the 5th and 6th 5% each, the last 4 cultivators 10% total. So according to those people, Lin Feng or Kong Ming had greatest chance to be the forbidden person. They didn't dare completely omit Chu Chunxiu, so they considered the probability 10%, because on the day when the sky and purple clouds broke apart, the shrines couldn't see Chu Chunxiu. He might have used the tunnel of the Supreme Animal World to go there. But soon after that, when the shrine's members arrived in purple clouds, they discovered that Chu Chunxiu had been seen in the Supreme Animal World again. They had concluded that the probability of him being the forbidden person was 10%, even though he was initially considered the biggest threat for the shrines. However, the probability that Lin Feng was the forbidden person was now 30%. How could they let him off? Master, bring my wife and kid back to the Fortune Shrine, Lin Feng said to the saint of the Fortune Shrine. He was surprised, but the other saint nodded. They got ready to leave. Lin Feng. Meng Qing looked perplexed. Father, said Jitian, pulling a long face. He didn't like the shrines. He had heard about the legends regarding the forbidden person. He had also heard all the shrines were looking for Lin Feng, because they wanted to kill him. He didn't like the shrines. Even if Lin Feng was a forbidden person, he had never done anything bad to the shrines. They just wanted to prevent him from rising. He glanced at all the members of the shrines, and remembered their faces carefully. Alright, go. I will be distracted if you stay here. I'll be fine. Lin Feng smiled. I'm not easy to kill. Meng Qing nodded. She knew that she couldn't distract Lin Feng. They had just reunited, and now Lin Feng was in danger again. She was very sad. If she hadn't existed, Lin Feng wouldn't have come to the Snow Clan, and the shrines wouldn't have found him. She felt guilty. Jitian and Meng Qing left with the strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine. The strong cultivators of the Fire Shrine and the Ice and Snow Shrine wanted Lin Feng. They weren't interested in Meng Qing and his son at all. Jitian, have you seen that? Only strength is important. You need to become strong quickly, said Meng Qing to Jitian as they left. Jitian nodded. He could sense that his father was strong and was now supported by some people. But he could imagine the pressure he had borne for 20 years. To become strong, he had overcome all obstacles. Now, he had taken risks to save his wife and child. Now he was facing the dangerous shrines. Both sides were staring at each other. A strong cultivator of the Fortune Shrine said, What do you want to do? You know perfectly well. Hand Lin Feng over, demanded a saint of the Fire Shrine coldly. Lin Feng, don't run away randomly. There are many strong cultivators, you could die anytime, said a voice in Lin Feng's mind. The Fire Shrine and the Ice and Snow Shrine had set up an inescapable net in the area to kill him. I understand, replied Lin Feng. He was furious. The shrines wanted to kill him more than anything. But he had never thought of destroying the world or causing chaos. Even if he was a forbidden person, he just wanted to have a happy life. He wanted to be with his parents, friends, and wives and protect them. But the shrines were worried that a forbidden person would be too strong and destroy the world. They wanted to destroy Lin Feng. At that moment, Lin Feng had only one thought. Since it's that way, if someday I become a peerless forbidden person, I'll destroy the shrines. He's a core disciple in the Fortune Shrine. You can't kill our core disciples. If you do, what do you think will happen? Said a strong cultivator of the Fortune Shrine, taking a step forwards. They were oppressing Huashang and the others. Strong cultivators from shrines weren't supposed to attack younger disciples. However, the two shrines had joined hands to kill Lin Feng. It wasn't normal at all. Even if you capture our disciples, Lin Feng will die anyway. If you kill our disciples, we'll kill your disciples too, said a strong cultivator of the Ice and Snow Shrine coldly. But they hadn't captured disciples from the Fortune Shrine, so he didn't know what else to say. Release them, said a strong cultivator of the Ice and Snow Shrine, flashing forwards. The atmosphere started freezing around him. The saints of the Fortune Shrine surrounded Lin Feng. Even though he was very strong and talented, he was a nobody in the saints' eyes. They could easily kill him. The strong cultivators of the Fire Shrine and the Ice and Snow Shrine really wanted to kill him. The atmosphere was explosive. Energies kept colliding. A Milky Way appeared. Even the saints of the Fortune Shrine began to grimace. The periphery has been sealed. There are cultivators of the other shrines as well, not only the Fire Shrine and the Ice and Snow Shrine. The saints of the Fortune Shrine were furious. The situation was getting dangerous for them now. When Lin Feng heard that, his face stiffened. He hadn't thought such a thing would happen after his trip to the Fortune Shrine. These people really wanted to kill him. Back to the Snow Clan go. Lin Feng didn't even have time to react. He sensed a terrifying strength surround him and take him back into the Snow Clan. Only the saints took Lin Feng back in. The other cultivators didn't follow. Apart from saints, nobody else could get involved in that battle. Chase him, said the other saints. The group of people moved. They crossed 1,000 li in the blink of an eye. 30,000 li wasn't much for them. The members of the Snow Clan sensed their terrifying energies and frowned. The old woman rose up in the air, shouted furiously, "What does the Fortune Shrine want from the Snow Clan now? Lend us some space," said a saint pitilessly. The old woman saw gigantic hands rise up and stamp the sky. The whole Snow Clan was trembling. People all raised their heads in fright. The earth and sky were trembling. Ancient imprints filled the air. Crackling sounds spread in the air. "The Fortune Shrine has gone too far," shouted the old woman of the Snow Clan furiously. Saint Ju released chi in a surge. He was furious. He wanted to crush the strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine. A clear and melodious sound spread out, lights flashed. It was like the earth and sky were about to collapse. A few people turned into beam of lights and moved. Lin Feng. Saint Ju's chi shot up into the sky. The Snow Clan had lost a cultivator who had a king-type body, and Lin Feng had taken away 2 of their strong cultivators as well. It was a tragedy for them. Even back in the days when the Snow Clan had started collapsing, they hadn't been humiliated like this. However, even when the strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine disappeared, the strong cultivators of the other shrines arrived, and also rose up into the air. They looked furious. The Fortune Shrine's strong cultivators had decided to escape through the Snow Clan. They had broken the world of the Snow Clan to escape. But getting rid of them wouldn't be easy either. What's going on? Suddenly, they saw many of Lin Feng's clones everywhere in the air, and they moved in all directions. The saints of the Fortune Shrine also took different clones in different directions. The crowd was astonished. All the clones seem real, but they all seem fake at the same time, swore a saint. How to chase them? Follow all of them, follow the saints. Kill the clones. Don't let anyone off, said a saint. They moved extremely fast. They all of them turning into beam of lights. Many strong cultivators arrived and started attacking all the clones. Seal the atmosphere, said a strong cultivator. Instantly, a strong cultivator rose up into the air and made some hand seals. Dazzling lights appeared all around, and the atmosphere was suddenly sealed by golden lights. Even an ant couldn't escape. Chapter 2290. Slaughter. A saint wearing a golden robe was standing up in the air. His eyes were golden as he glanced around. I don't think any clone escaped. Kill them all and then wait for further orders, said the saint coldly. The crowd nodded, and then started scanning the area. Lin Feng's clones didn't have good fighting abilities, and couldn't withstand a single attack. Very quickly they all disappeared. I've heard that Lin Feng's hiding abilities are astonishing. What do we do about the people on the ground? Someone asked the saint. Only one saint was left there, so they listened to him. The area had been sealed within a diameter of thousands of li. On the ground was a small city completely sealed. Many people raised their heads, astonished to see a saint. Kill them all, said the strong cultivator. The people on the crowd were terrified, even those who were saint emperors. However, the outsiders were astonished. There were many people on the ground. Killing them was against the most basic principles of war. They had all gone through a lot in life, and killed millions of people. However, those people on the ground were innocent people. Killing them was cruel. It would tarnish their shrine's reputation. The saint in the sky was a strong cultivator from the empty space shrine. As the fortune shrine had guessed, all the shrines were getting involved. They had to kill that guy since there was a high probability that he was a forbidden person. Master, we should wait for some news, shouldn't we? Said someone. The others were chasing the saints of the fortune shrine. They would soon be able to assess the situation, and would know if Lin Feng's real body had been found or not. If he wasn't there, then he was probably in the crowd on the ground. The empty space shrine saint remained silent for a few seconds, but then he nodded. All right. The people beneath them were terrified. They could die at any time. Lin Feng was really in there, actually. He had changed his face. He had hoped they'd all chase the fortune shrine's strong cultivators. However, the empty space shrine's strong cultivator had sealed the whole area. Lin Feng didn't even dare look at them up in the sky. He was afraid, and he didn't want to look suspicious. He was slowly walking in the city. He watched the other people trying to look calm, like an ordinary person. The saint emperors up above received some news. All the Lin Fengs taken away by the strong cultivators of the fortune shrine were fake, but they continued chasing them, wanting to put pressure on the saints to make them hand Lin Feng over. Any news? Asked a strong cultivator, watching the strong cultivators of the fire and the ice and snow shrines. Yes, all were clones. We need to find his real body and kill him, said someone. Instantly, the empty space shrine saint's eyes flashed. Kill all those people. He will be in the crowd. Everybody nodded. The atmosphere became oppressive. Qi began to rise. It was terrifying. At that moment, the crowd on the ground felt the pressure and raised their heads. Lin Feng raised his head too. The saint emperors dispersed. Lin Feng started hearing some horrible screams, sad and plaintive cries. Some people around him started burning. The atmosphere began to distort. Smoke filled the air. People burned alive and vanished. The atmosphere became scorching hot. A saint emperor moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng was speechless. Those people wanted to slaughter everyone. He didn't know what to do. He was furious, stunned, scared. Because of him, the shrine's strong cultivators didn't care about anything anymore. People burned alive one after the other. Then he sensed Qi surround him. It was fire Dao power. Lin Feng instantly started burning too. No. Lin Feng released God's strength inside of his body and destroyed the fire strength. He gazed into the distance, seeing a frozen area. Some people were being frozen to death. Lin Feng also saw an old man, his grandchild in his arms, running desperately. But a fire sword pierced through his body. He stopped moving and started burning, dying instantly. Only some strong people could resist for a few seconds. People who weren't saint emperors died instantly. A strong cultivator from the fire shrine looked at Lin Feng, and Lin Feng didn't react. Celestial Emperor, said the saint emperor coldly. Dao power surrounded Lin Feng again. He had the impression he was going to burn to death. The saint emperor raised his hand, and a fireball moved towards Lin Feng. At the same time, the outsider flashed towards another group of people. He slapped a wave of fire at them all, and they all started burning and died. Very quickly, that strong cultivator turned around, and was surprised to see that Lin Feng wasn't dead. Bzzz. Lin Feng started running away. That strong cultivator was startled. and he immediately started chasing Lin Feng again. At the same time, in the air, the empty space shrine saint was watching. He could see everybody. Nothing could escape from his field of vision. People were getting slaughtered, but he looked indifferent. At that moment he saw Lin Feng. Lin Feng was escaping really quickly. He was running towards the periphery of the sealed area. However, the saint didn't react too quickly. He was convinced that a celestial emperor couldn't escape easily. Lin Feng was extremely fast. He arrived at the periphery of the sealed area. Humph! The saint grunted coldly. Did Lin Feng think he could escape from this empty space world? However, at that moment, Lin Feng turned into two, and the second body was gigantic. An incredible strength emerged from his body. He punched the sealed area, and space broke with a clear, sharp sound. The sealed area cracked. The empty space strong cultivator was astonished. A saint! He jumped towards Lin Feng. In one step, he could cross a distance of 100 li. The Saint Emperor, who was chasing Lin Feng, suddenly stopped. He was astonished and staring at the giant. What an incredible saint's chi! A cauldron appeared. That person's soul started shaking. A terrifying strength oppressed his soul. He was stupefied. Saint Emperors were like tiny little insects to saints. Saints were peerless cultivators. The cauldron oppressed everything. The Saint Emperor of the Fire Shrine suddenly felt powerless. He turned around and ran away. However, the ancient cauldron chased him. The Fire Shrine's strong cultivator had the impression millions of mountains had fallen on his shoulders. The Saint Emperor exploded loudly, and his soul dispersed. At that moment, Qin Shan raised his head and looked at the empty space shrine's saint. He jumped forwards in condensed strength. Oppressive chi appeared. He was surrounded by 9 cauldrons. Those 9 cauldrons could oppress the skies, heaven and earth. The empty space shrine saint was shocked and stopped advancing. Lin Feng continued running away. He didn't watch the battle. All the shrines wanted to kill him, and he couldn't compete with them. Go and kill Lin Feng, shouted the empty space shrine saint coldly. Everybody nodded and chased after Lin Feng. Qin Shan shouted furiously, his voice making the earth and sky tremble. An endless number of mountains started falling from the sky towards the Saint Emperor. The Saint Emperor was crushed flat and exploded. He couldn't withstand a single attack. Make a detour. The Saint Emperors were astonished. They tried to make a detour. They couldn't stay in the oppressive energies. Qin Shan's oppressive energies could crush them flat. How terrifying. Chapter 2291. Racing with the death god wings appeared on Lin Feng's back. He condensed the strength of the 10,000 things of creation and flashed forwards. Each time he moved, it was like he crossed a whole world. He was extremely fast. The strong cultivators of the Snow Clan didn't dare chase him. However, the members of the shrines would seize any opportunity to kill him. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't stop at all. He used deployment spells each time he took a step, and at the same time he kept using talismans one after another. He moved like a rocket. But those who were chasing him were extremely fast too. Strong cultivators from the empty space shrine also controlled empty space energy. And each time they moved, they could cross space and time as well. At the same time, they used their godly awareness to track Lin Feng, so that they would not lose him again. If Lin Feng wanted to use clones again, it wouldn't work. Even those whom Qin Shan had stopped continued following Lin Feng with their godly awareness. They knew that Lin Feng's disguise skills were astonishing. They couldn't give him any opportunity to evade them. Each time he appeared in the middle of a crowd, it was like he disappeared. Lin Feng felt great pressure. It was a matter of time, of who would be faster, the Fortune Shrine or the other shrines. However, Lin Feng was really scared this time because a moment before, saints had been chasing the Fortune Shrine saints. Now he was moving in that direction. And if the saints who had chased the Fortune Shrine saints turned around, he'd bump into them. Turn around. Suddenly, Lin Feng decided to turn around and not go after the strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine. He couldn't take the risk of bumping into the saints of the other shrines, especially now that Qin Shan wasn't with him to protect him right now. If he bumped into the saints of the other shrines, he'd die instantly. He was talented, but he was still far from being able to compete with saints. Even saints like Qin Shan, who had almost died in the past and come back to life, could still crush saint emperors instantly, like he had done just a moment before. Saints could destroy him instantly. So if he continued moving in the direction of the Fortune Shrine's saints, but bumped into the saints of the other shrines, he'd die instantly, and the Fortune Shrine's strong cultivators would arrive a minute too late. Of course, when Lin Feng decided to move in another direction, he informed the diviner. As Lin Feng had expected, each shrine was trying to move faster than the others. The diviner had made many saints follow Lin Feng to the Snow Clan this time, because he feared such a thing would happen, but he hadn't really thought it would. It was really bad luck this time, because the Snow Clan had immediately contacted the Fire and the Ice and Frost shrines. The diviner was in the sky, and he flying in Lin Feng's direction. Many people raised their heads on the ground and saw a white light streaking across the sky. They couldn't see it clearly, though it was moving too fast. He's going in the direction of Life City. The diviner was startled. He immediately took out a jade talisman. Bing Yan, help me save someone. He's going towards your position. I'll share his location with you, said the diviner. Some strong cultivators from other shrines are chasing him. You must hurry up. Many strong cultivators were chasing Lin Feng. They were some distance from Lin Feng. Some people spreading out in all directions to surround the area, so that Lin Feng wouldn't be able to change course. No matter who arrived first, Lin Feng was doomed. They'd all arrive before the strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine possibly could. It was a race against time. Lin Feng was very fast, but because he had hesitated regarding his trajectory, his enemies had managed to catch up a little. They couldn't really see Lin Feng. He was very, very distant, but they could track him thanks to their godly awareness. A celestial emperor is surprisingly so fast. He's even more dangerous than Chu Chunxiu. We must kill him, said a saint emperor coldly. They had to kill Lin Feng. Now they were almost convinced that Lin Feng had a forbidden body. He had just become their ultimate target. A strong wind started blowing, and thunder rolled out. They were stunned, turning around to see a gigantic fireball. They all looked extremely happy. A saint of the fire shrine had finally caught up. He's there in the distance, said a saint emperor. They had been chasing Lin Feng for such a long time. They were tired and nervous. Now that a saint of the fire shrine had arrived, Lin Feng was definitely doomed. The fireball streaked across the sky at top speed. A beautiful and magnificent fire trail appeared behind it. No, Lin Feng accelerated. He sensed that the saint of the fire shrine was catching up with him, and felt even more under pressure. Death! Lin Feng looked furious. His eyes were filled with death strength. He had gone through so many hardships in life. Was he going to die? He had nearly died so many times. He had dreamt for so many years. Now he was sure he had a forbidden body. He had developed his own god level. He was destined to become a ruler in the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds sooner or later. How could he die now? If he died, what would happen to his small world, his family members, his friends Meng Qing Zhetian? Everybody would be so sad. But the qi behind him was getting closer and closer. He had the impression death was catching up with him. And the strong cultivators of the Fortune Shrine hadn't arrived yet. Lin Feng, you have nowhere to escape, said a voice behind him. Lin Feng started feeling extremely hot, as if he were about to burn alive. He was getting more and more desperate. Was he going to die? The saint of the fire shrine was there. Lin Feng, you have to hold on at all costs, shouted a voice. Lin Feng frowned. Finally he had hope again. The diviner was almost there. He had to hold on a little bit longer. Lin Feng accelerated. He didn't know he was capable of moving that fast. However, it was a saint following him. Even if he accelerated, the saint continued catching up slowly with him. Get ready to die, said the saint. The voice sounded like the devil's voice in his head. He wanted to make Lin Feng feel desperate and stop running. But Lin Feng was determined he couldn't die, not now. Such cultivators were still extremely fast though. 3 seconds and I'll destroy him, thought the fire shrine saint. 3 seconds would be enough. The diviner wouldn't arrive within 3 seconds. Lin Feng had the impression the god of death was about to catch him. 1 second passed. The distance between them decreased again. Lin Feng gazed into the distance. he saw dazzling lights intertwining. The lights seemed alive. 2 seconds passed. The fire shrine saint already considered Lin Feng dead. He started smiling coldly as he condensed fire in his hands again. 3 seconds finally passed. The fire shrine saint said, "Destroy." Lin Feng sensed a terrifying fireball shooting towards him. At that precise moment, Lin Feng summoned the Fortune City illusion to block the attack. "Break!" shouted the fire shrine's cultivator. The Fortune City's illusion exploded. The fireball continued moving towards Lin Feng. "Piss off!" shouted Lin Feng, taking out the 10,000 evolutions cauldron. Deployment lights flashed. The 10,000 evolutions cauldron looked like a supreme precious cauldron, protecting Lin Feng from death. The flames tried to pierce through the cauldron. The fire shrine saint was getting closer. He stretched out his hands, trying to capture Lin Feng. Lin Feng sensed a terrifying strength surrounding. However, at that moment it broke apart. "It's over," said the fire shrine's cultivator. Another fireball emerging from his finger and shooting towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng started burning again. "No!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. The fire was corroding his life. He released as much life strength as he could. At that moment, dazzling green lights surrounded him. The fire shrine saint moved closer, about to catch Lin Feng. But he saw the dimly discernible green lights, and Lin Feng disappeared. At the same time, the diviner arrived and looked at Lin Feng, whose face was deathly pale. He glared at the fire shrine's strong cultivator, his eyes filled with murder. Chapter 2292. All the shrines, his life is in peril, said a voice. The diviner looked furious. "Bing Yan, take him away. Save him, thanks for your help." "All right." The dazzling green lights disappeared across the sky. Lin Feng had already lost consciousness. The fire shrine's strong cultivator groaned coldly. Lin Feng thought he could still survive. That attack was enough. Lin Feng was about to die. "Great life destruction," said the diviner coldly. The fire shrine saint was stupefied and shouted furiously, "Maradeva, you want to kill me?" A terrifying life-corroding strength emerged and surrounded his body. His life was being drained out. The diviner overbearing chi was surging. The fire shrine's strong cultivator could sense that the diviner wanted to kill him. "We've all been at peace for so many years. It seems like you've all forgotten where my name comes from. But you remembered my name. At least, you'll die knowing who killed you," sighed the diviner. Lights emerged from his eyes and blotted out the sky. The whole territory became his. The sky went dark. Even the saint emperors in the distance were shaking. A saint from the empty space shrine arrived and gazed into the distance. However, when he saw the diviner and the fire shrine saint fighting, he was astonished, and he remembered the diviner's name. He didn't know what to do anymore. Help the fire shrine saint or not? If he dies, the fire shrine will go crazy, thought the empty space shrine saint. He turned around and left as if events had nothing to do with him anymore. The diviner and the fire shrine saint were fighting. Their energies already blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The atmosphere was sealed over a distance of thousands of li. The diviner's strength was incredible. No matter what, he wanted to kill his enemy. He didn't care about the consequences anymore. All of this would have terrifying consequences in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. At least 5 shrines had gotten involved. Such a terrifying thing hadn't happened in such a long time. Now Lin Feng had served as the match for the fire. Lin Feng had finished first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. He had become famous in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. Back when he had finished first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, people in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds hadn't paid attention to him, because there were too many geniuses in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. But now things were different. This day, a saint of the fire shrine fell. It had been a very, very long time since a saint from the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds had died. But because of Lin Feng, the fire shrine saint had died. The diviner, whose real name was Maradeva, had killed him. People had forgotten that name with time. The diviner of the fortune shrine had killed a saint of the fire shrine. A saint had died, a terrible thing for the fire shrine. Apart from losing an important asset, They had also lost face. Everybody thought that the fire shrine would be furious, but actually they calmed down and didn't continue fighting against the fortune shrine. People in the outside world didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, though, but they could imagine that the fire shrine was actually furious. Maybe they were scared too. For the fire shrine, chasing Lin Feng was just something they had agreed to do because all the shrines had joined hands. The fortune shrine didn't dare attack all the shrines, but the diviner Maradeva had dared kill one of their saints. The fire shrine's strong cultivators weren't stupid. They knew that if their saint had died, it was because the saints from the other shrines had probably abandoned him during the battle. The fire shrine's members had already heard many people tell their versions of what had happened on that day. They could imagine what had happened in the end. That saint had died because the other shrines, with whom they had formed an alliance, had abandoned him and left. The other shrines hoped that the fire shrine would start a war against the fortune shrine. The fire shrine was convinced that if they started a war against the fortune shrine, nobody would help them, and on the contrary, they would watch and then, when the two shrines were weak enough, they would finish them both off. They hadn't forgotten the war of the shrines in the old days. It was why the shrines didn't dare fight anymore. The consequences in the ancient days had been too tragic. However, everybody thought that the diviner was cruel. He had dared kill a saint. But now the problem was Lin Feng dead? Everybody had heard that the fire shrine's saint had attacked Lin Feng, and that a strong cultivator of the life shrine had taken him away. Therefore, nobody knew if he was dead or not. Green lights flashed deep within the life shrine. Beautiful emerald green grass fields and trees. There was a beautiful lake there containing an incredible amount of life strength. Lin Feng was lying in the water of the life lake, floating at the surface. Life strength kept flowing into his body. Life strength also kept emerging from the grass and trees and entering his body. His life essence was getting thicker and thicker. There was someone at the lakeside staring at Lin Feng, frowning. It was the diviner. The diviner raised his head and looked at an ancient tree, asking, "Bing Yan, how is he doing?" His own life strength is very powerful, so he can absorb life strength even better than most people. It's like he is in a state of suspended animation. He should have woken up, but I don't know why he hasn't, said the ancient tree. I'll call Shishi, she'll come and check. Thank you, Bing Yan, said the diviner, nodding at the ancient tree. Bing Yan looked at the diviner and said, You attach much importance to him. You even killed a saint because of him. Does he really have a forbidden body? It's not important. He's a disciple of the fortune shrine. How could I let anyone oppress them like that? Replied the diviner calmly. A beautiful woman appeared, landing on the lakeside. She had an extraordinary chi, and looked like a life goddess. She flashed out above the lake. She crouched and looked at Lin Feng. Death and life type. She was surprised. She looked at the diviner and asked, He understands life and death Tao. I think so, said the diviner. Life and death are not very compatible. His life and death strengths are competing. He's in a special state. I don't know why he can't wake up though, said Mu Rong Shishi. The diviner frowned. The fortune shrine's strong cultivators had incredible powers, but they didn't understand life strength that well compared to the strong cultivators of the life shrine. What should we do? Asked the diviner. I will continue healing him. I think he's the only one who knows when he will wake up though, said Mu Rong Shishi, shaking her head. Source: http://www.utopian.net/names/compound/Murong. HTML. What if he doesn't wake up? Asked the diviner, frowning. We'll need to expel his death strength from his body then, no other choice, replied Mu Rong Shishi. Lin Feng's condition was strange. Even to them the diviner was speechless as he stared at Lin Feng. What was wrong with this little boy? In the fortune shrine, Meng Qing and Jitian were extremely nervous. They didn't know how Lin Feng was doing. The diviner told them they had to be patient. How could they be patient though? Now the relations between the shrines were not good. The diviner didn't want them to leave the fortune shrine for the time being. Otherwise, the fire shrine might seek revenge and kill them. Apart from Meng Qing and Jitian, in the Void Phoenix clan, some people were also extremely worried too. Qing Feng was staring at Saint Shiju Lao Xian and asked, Teacher, how is Lin Feng doing? I'm not sure, said Shiju Lao Xian, shaking his head. I've heard that he was in the Life Shrine. Life Shrine? Qing Feng was surprised. She said, I want to go to the Life Shrine. To do what? Said Shiju Lao Xian. Lin Feng will be fine, there are strong cultivators in both shrines. If they can't do much, you won't be able to do much either. Be patient. Qing Feng was surprised and said, I'll go and see Sister Jing. She left quickly. All the shrines were watching the Life Shrine these days. They needed to know whether Lin Feng was dead or not. The Fire Shrine had lost a saint, after all, and lost face. They hadn't even managed to kill a celestial emperor. People from the Snow Clan were also watching the Life Shrine. They were convinced that if Lin Feng died, everybody would quickly know it. Chapter 2293. Lin Feng's condition. Lin Feng was calmly lying above the life lake of the Fortune Shrine. Life strength kept flowing into his body. Mu Rong Shishi was in front of Lin Feng. She stretched her hand and put it on Lin Feng's body. She released even more life qi, which flew throughout Lin Feng's body. However, she could sense that there was a life and death vortex in Lin Feng's body. His death strength didn't disperse. She felt powerless. Why would you do that? Whispered Mu Rong Shishi. Some green leaves passed next to her and brushed her. He's in a state of suspended animation. Why doesn't the death energy disperse? Asked Bing Yan. Mu Rong Shishi shook her head. I'm not sure. I can't see what's happening inside his head, or I'd solve the situation. What you mean is that he's doing that on purpose? Asked Bing Yan. Yes, said Mu Rong Shishi nodded. It was possible. Bing Yan didn't understand. Was Lin Feng staying asleep on purpose? Lin Feng was in a state of suspended animation. When the Fire Shrine Saint had attacked him, he had thought he was dying, and actually had almost died. However, because he controlled life and death Dao, he had released life stamps into his body, and had used all of his life strength. He hadn't died, and at that moment, Bing Yan had released life strength into him, and prevented him from dying. However, Lin Feng had never been that close to dying before. He really had almost died. Then life strength had saved him, and he had fallen into a state of suspended animation. Initially, he didn't want that, but he also knew that going through such a thing was a rare opportunity. He had the opportunity to study life and death in real conditions, and he couldn't miss it. If he missed it, he wouldn't be stupid enough to try to cause such a situation again. Cause such a situation to happen just to study it. Therefore, he had decided not to wake up to study each part of his body, and how they reacted when facing death. It would also be a great opportunity to reach perfection on the path of life and death. Lin Feng had already heard that his life and death Dao was a dual Dao. It was a difficult path. Finally, he had the opportunity to study death in a real-life situation. Therefore, he didn't want to wake up. There was a giant at the lakeside. His qi was ancient. He looked like a god. Qin Shan had found the way here himself. He had already studied the rebirth scriptures. And even though he couldn't become as strong as he used to be in his previous life, he was already vastly stronger than when he was only a small thread of consciousness. A blue-green bird whistled and called out. 2 women from the Void Phoenix clan from the northwest area are here and want to see Lin Feng. Bing Yan raised his head and said, Let them come. The grass undulated in the wind, and after a short time, 2 beautiful women arrived, Jing and Qing Feng. Lin Feng! Shouted Qing Feng when she saw Lin Feng. She landed in front of him, and looked at him lying on the surface of the water. It made her feel extremely sad. What's wrong with him? Qing Feng asked Mu Rong Shishi. Mu Rong Shishi shook her head. He's in a state of suspended animation. He's half dead, half alive. I don't know any more. Half dead, half alive. Qing Feng was stunned. What you mean is that he can die anytime? Yes. Mu Rong Shishi nodded. Qing Feng's face stiffened. She didn't know what to say. She just stared at Lin Feng. How could it be? Said Qing Feng, almost crying. She looked devastated. She crouched down and put her hands on Lin Feng's face. A few days before, he was with her. He had told her he wanted to take care of her. He was smiling so broadly. He had even told her mother that. However, only a short time had passed, and he was almost dead. Qing Feng, said Jing. Poor Qing Feng. She was devastated. She had fallen in love with Lin Feng and now. Qing Feng didn't say anything. She just stayed there, kneeling next to Lin Feng. She looked at Mu Rongxi and asked, Master, if I die and turn into Dao and I enter into his body, will he come back to life? Die and turn into Dao? Mu Rongxi was astonished. The Void Phoenix clan really had such an ability, but only strong cultivators could use it. It was an ancient phoenix sacrificial technique. Maybe, replied Mu Rongxi. At least his chances of waking up would be higher, I guess. All right, Qing Feng nodded. Jing was astonished. Qing Feng, you can't turn into Dao now. Qing Feng couldn't sacrifice herself yet. I'll accept what the clan asked of me. I'll have my phoenix blood cleansed again, and I'll be able to turn into Dao. I'm going back, said Qing Feng. She smiled at Jing and turned around. Jing's mouth twitched. I don't accept this. Let's go, sister, Qing Feng said. Her silhouette flickered as she left. Mu Rongxi and Bing Yin were astonished. Mu Rongxi smiled wryly and shook her head. She smiled at Bing Yin and said, Sister Bing Yin, you probably understand. Bing Yin smiled wryly. You're making fun of me. I'm not back in the days. You and Maradeva were so passionate, replied Mu Rongxi giggling. It was difficult to imagine two saints giggling like that. At that moment, they looked like little girls. Lin Feng didn't know what was going on outside at that moment. His soul and consciousness were almost dead. His life and death Dao was about to reach perfection. When a cultivator's Dao reached the maximum level perfection, it meant that they met one of the requirements to become a saint. Every saint had gone through this. Lin Feng's journey was even more difficult. He had almost died. His god strength fused together with his life and death strength. People in the outside world were still watching the life shrine. They were waiting for news. Was Lin Feng dead yet? Qing Feng accepted getting married to a member of the fire shrine in order to have her phoenix blood cleansed. It was a great opportunity for the Void Phoenix clan, but it didn't draw too many people's attention. The fire shrine didn't even care about it. All they cared about was Lin Feng's death. Time passed slowly. The suspended animation started dispersed slowly in Lin Feng's body. His life and death strength started connecting again. What's wrong? Bing Yin looked startled at that moment, and looked at Lin Feng strangely. She immediately released life strength, which flowed throughout his body. How could it be? My life strength is dividing inside of his body. It's dividing into life and death strength. And the division is perfectly equal. Mu Rongxi didn't understand. She didn't know what it looked like when a cultivator's life and death Dao was reaching perfection. So she didn't understand. She thought the death strength in Lin Feng's body had appeared because of the Fire Shrine Saint's attack. In other words, that it was the injury itself. It was partly true. And by a lucky coincidence, Lin Feng had been given the opportunity to improve. Let's watch, said Mu Bingyan. Lin Feng absorbed more and more life strength. It was as if the life qi of the lake wasn't enough for him. The two women were stunned. Qing Feng and Jing came back to the life shrine. Jing didn't want Qing Feng to come back, but Qing Feng was stubborn. Jing could only hope that Lin Feng would wake up before Qing Feng did anything stupid. Chapter 2294. Waking up the life shrine was boundless. From the sky, it didn't look like a city, it looked like a gigantic tree. There were millions of leaves everywhere, and they all contained an endless amount of ancient life qi. Each branch of the tree looked like an ancient tree in itself. Lin Feng was somewhere in there, lying calmly at the top of the lake. He continued absorbing the strength of the lake. Qing Feng and Jing finally arrived. When Jing saw that Lin Feng hadn't woken up, she was nervous. Her heart was pounding. Master, when will he wake up? Jing looked at Mu Rongxi and asked telepathically. Master, tell my sister that Lin Feng will wake up, otherwise, she will do something stupid. Mu Rongxi was surprised. She glanced at Qing Feng, but tried to look normal. She said calmly, he's absorbing life strength now. He will probably wake up soon. Mu Rongxi didn't know when Lin Feng would stand up, but she knew that Jing was extremely worried. She had to cheer Qing Feng up. Mu Bingyan knew why she said that. She also hoped that Lin Feng would wake up at some point, so Qing Feng wouldn't sacrifice herself. Qing Feng glanced at Mu Rongxishi and whispered, "Really? Of course, I'm a saint, I wouldn't lie to you," said Mu Rongxishi smiling. Qing Feng trusted her instantly because she looked so kind. She nodded. "I'll wait for 7 days. If he doesn't wake up during these 7 days, I'll turn into Dao." Mu Rongxishi was surprised and said, "Give him time." "No. If he's already absorbing life strength, he should wake up quickly. If he doesn't wake up within 7 days, then it means that it's not working," said Qing Feng, smiling at Mu Rongxishi. She was staring at Lin Feng. Now, she hoped that Lin Feng would wake up quickly, but Lin Feng didn't know about that. If he knew, he would have woken up. During those 7 days, he continued absorbing life strength. After 7 days, Qing Feng smiled from where she was seated next to Lin Feng. She looked calm, she just smiled in a silly way. "It seems like I'll become a part of your body now," Qing Feng smiled. "Feng!" Qing Feng's chi started burning. A phoenix called out sadly. An ancient phoenix shadow appeared around her body, dazzling to see. "No, Qing Feng. Don't do it," said Jing. Her face turned deathly pale. She was shouting desperately, "Sister!" Qing Feng smiled at Jing. Her smile was resplendent. "Sister, thank you for being good to me. I owe you." "Qing Feng, don't," said Jing, shaking her head urgently. However, a strong wind started blowing. Death strength emerged from Qing Feng's body. She was dying, and her energy was going into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng sensed something. His god strength allowed him to control things. Actually, he also viewed his god strength as control strength. At that moment, a strange death strength filled with emotions was merging into his body. Lin Feng sensed his death strength was improving. Qing Feng's ability was incredible. Her life turned into death strength, and then into life strength in the other person's body. It was a kind of rebirth. That death strength turned into life strength in his body. That death strength filled with emotions is turning into life strength? Thought Lin Feng. It was a completely different strength from his life and death strength. His life and death strength were completely distinct in his body. Jing started crying above the lake. Qing Feng's body was burning away. But Qing Feng wasn't sad. She was happy, she looked confident and at ease. Her silhouette gradually became illusionary. Mu Bingyan looked at Qing Feng and closed her eyes. She was too sad, she didn't dare look. Mu Rongxishi felt very sad too. But she suddenly released an incredible amount of life strength surrounding the lake. She looked at Lin Feng. He was still absorbing life strength. She shouted, "Stop. Don't turn into Dao." Jing was surprised and looked at Lin Feng. She shouted, "Feng, stop. Lin Feng is going to wake up. Stop. Cancel." Life strength surrounded Qing Feng's body. Mu Rongxishi flashed over next to her. Instantly, Qing Feng's strength went back into her body, and she recalled her fire. How dangerous, thought Mu Rongxishi. Qing Feng's soul was badly injured, even though she had started her Dao transformation technique only a few seconds before. Qing Feng was astonished too, but she calmed down quickly and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was still absorbing life strength. "What's going on?" asked Qing Feng. She was surprised. His life and death strength are changing. They coexist peacefully, thought Mu Rongxishi. She was astonished. She whispered, "He's going to wake up. He's practicing cultivation. He's not pretending to be dead." Practicing cultivation? Qing Feng was astonished. Jing took a deep breath and said to Qing Feng, "You almost died." Qing Feng's eyes twinkled. She smiled at Jing, and then continued looking at Lin Feng. "Let's move back," Mu Rongxishi said to the two younger women. Lin Feng was still absorbing life strength. A strong wind made of life and death strength started blowing around him. They quickly enveloped the whole lake. The trees around the lake started turning pitch black. Mu Rongxishi and Mu Bingyan looked at the changes in the atmosphere and shivered. This guy's Dao had reached perfection. His comprehension abilities were incredible. He had almost died and had seized that opportunity to study death strength. What a genius! No wonder all the shrines made such great efforts to kill him. A saint had even been killed because of him. The fire shrine was probably furious. They had lost a saint, and they still hadn't managed to kill Lin Feng. Life and death lights dashed to the skies. Suddenly, Lin Feng opened his eyes and looked around, seeing everything was emerald green around him. It felt good to be there. He smiled. Life and death Dao was difficult, but finally, he had really reached the peak of perfection. He felt great. But when he opened his eyes, he felt some cold eyes on him. He slowly rose up into the air and exclaimed, "Jing?" Jing was staring at him coldly. She looked furious. "You bastard, you weren't not dead. You were practicing cultivation," said Jing coldly. "Feng almost killed herself because of you." "What do you mean?" said Lin Feng, stunned. Jing spat. "When she saw that you didn't wake up, she wanted to turn into Dao to save your life." When Lin Feng heard that, he shivered. No wonder he had sensed a strange death strength. It was Qing Feng's. His silhouette flickered, and he landed next to Qing Feng. She was beaming at him. He caressed her cheeks and said, "Silly girl." "I'm all right now," said Qing Feng, smiling back at him. "You're fine. But if the saint hadn't prevented you from turning into Dao, you'd be dead now," said Jing. She was furious. Lin Feng looked at Mu Rongxishi and Mu Bingyan. He said, "You're the ones who saved me, I guess? I feel very touched and grateful." He bowed before the two women. It was a slight effort. "However, take good care of that girl," said Mu Bingyan, glancing at Qing Feng. She sighed and said, "It's rare to have someone who would be willing to sacrifice themselves for you. Cherish her and protect her." "I understand, master." Lin Feng nodded. He grabbed Qing Feng's warm hand. She felt warm. He glanced at the green trees and asked, "Where are we?" "The Life Shrine. Master Mu Bingyan and the diviner have known each other for a very long time," said Jing. Lin Feng understood. The diviner had asked Mu Bingyan to save him. Fire Shrine, Ice and Snow Shrine, Empty Space Shrine. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with murder. They had almost killed him, but he was too weak to compete with the shrines for now. The shrines were terrifying entities. At that moment, he wished he could be like the king of the 10,000 beasts. He wished he stood at the top. He wished he could crush the shrines. Chapter 2295. Going back to purple clouds, there were two golden lights in the sky of the Life Shrine. A pair of eyes which could see everything. Those two dazzling eyes could see everything that was happening in the Life Shrine. When Lin Feng stood up, that pair of eyes slowly disappeared. Very quickly, the shrines all learned that Lin Feng wasn't dead, and that he had woken up. The shrines were all furious, especially the Fire Shrine. A few saints had joined hands and failed to kill Lin Feng. They had even lost one. How ridiculous! Was it some kind of a joke? And the worst thing was that the shrines had also killed many innocents. And in the end, they hadn't even managed to kill Lin Feng. The shrines didn't care about anyone's life, because they were extremely powerful, but their reputation would be tarnished. The shrines didn't like losing face. They had failed to kill Lin Feng, who probably had a forbidden body. They had missed an opportunity, and opportunities were rare. At that moment, many people from different shrines went and encircled the Life Shrine. The Fortune Shrine knew it, and the diviner informed Mu Bingyan. Life Qi kept surrounding Lin Feng and penetrating into his body. Lin Feng absorbed it greedily. Mu Bingyan didn't mind. The others were just chatting while Lin Feng did that. Lin Feng was very grateful. He kept thanking Mu Rongxishi and Mu Bingyan. They had healed him the whole time he was practicing cultivation. "Lin Feng, all the shrines want to kill you. When you were practicing cultivation and looked dead, many eyes were in the sky of the Life Shrine watching you. They didn't hide at all. They all saw that you woke up. They have probably encircled the Life Shrine. You'll have to go to the lower world, I think," Mu Rongxishi told Lin Feng. Lin Feng was startled. Indeed, he would have to leave and go to the lower world. He couldn't stay in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. "I should go back and see how strong the king of the 10,000 beasts is," murmured Lin Feng. He knew the king of the 10,000 beasts cultivation level. He knew how strong he could be, and now, he needed to collaborate with him. "Sis Shishi, thank you for having saved my life. I will never forget it," Lin Feng said to Mu Rongxishi. She smiled and said, "Ha ha ha, you just called me sis. You know how old I am. I am much older than you. We're cultivators, age doesn't matter. Besides, when a cultivator reaches a certain level, It is almost impossible to tell how old they are. And Sister Shishi, you look like a very young woman, said Lin Feng with a smile. Mu Rong Shishi's eyes twinkled. She smiled at Lin Feng and said, Mahadev's disciples know how to talk to women, I see. Alright, stop joking now. If Lin Feng goes to the lower world, the shrines will chase him to kill him. Lin Feng, will you be alright? Asked Mu Bingyan. Lin Feng smiled, don't worry. I have some incredible hiding and disguising abilities. Nobody can recognize me when I use them. To kill me, they'd have to destroy the continent of the 9 clouds. Alright, good. But Qing Feng and Jing won't be able to follow you that way, otherwise, they will immediately recognize you, said Mu Bingyan. Lin Feng nodded. He smiled at Qing Feng and said, You go back to the Void Phoenix clan, wait for me there. When I come back to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, I will come to you. Qing Feng was stunned, her heart twitched. She tried to hide her emotions with a smile and nodded. Alright, don't worry. Jing's eyes glittered. She wasn't happy. Qing Feng had almost committed suicide to save Lin Feng, and she had promised her clan something. She wasn't dead, so of course Jing was happy about that. But now, what could Qing Feng do about her promise? She couldn't take back her word. She had agreed only because of Lin Feng. Shishi, bring Lin Feng to the lower world's passage, Mu Bingyan told Mu Rong Shishi. Mu Rong Shishi nodded, and took Lin Feng to the passage in the depths of the life shrine. Sister Shishi, how come there are so few people in the life shrine? Asked Lin Feng. He was surprised. You just haven't seen them, smiled Mu Rong Shishi. Grass is alive. Everything in the life shrine is life. Lin Feng was surprised and smiled. He didn't say much more. After some time, they arrived at the passage. Mu Rong Shishi asked Lin Feng, Which continent do you want to go to? Purple clouds, said Lin Feng smiled. He turned around and caressed Qing Feng's cheeks, smiled and said, Wait for me. Alright, Qing Feng agreed. Lin Feng said to Jing, Jing, take care of Qing Feng. Jing rolled her eyes and looked at him angrily. Lin Feng turned around and jumped into the teleportation portal, which led to purple clouds. He quickly disappeared from their field of vision. Lin Feng suddenly appeared in purple clouds. He glanced at the sky. It was difficult to imagine that it was another world, which had been created by people. Lin Feng changed his face and body. He was back in purple clouds, and had one target destination in mind, King of the 10,000 Beasts territory. With his current strength, he could travel anywhere in purple clouds without any problem. He easily found a map of the continent, and quickly made his way to Long Night City. Back then, Lin Feng had gone to Long Night City with a terrifying group of beasts, and had killed many people. The inhabitants of Long Night City now understood that the King of the 10,000 Beasts existed. They just didn't have the opportunity to see him. The King of the 10,000 Beasts territory was truly a forbidden territory. There were legends about Lin Feng in Long Night City too. Some people said he was a descendant of the King of the 10,000 Beasts. Otherwise, how could he have had such a terrifying army of beasts with him? But Lin Feng didn't know about those things. He had gone back to Long Night City, and was calmly walking around. He continued on in the direction of the King of the 10,000 Beasts territory. The King of the 10,000 Beasts territory was still lively. Many beasts had gathered there living in peace with one another. They continued competing in the Bestial Memorial Pagoda, improving their fighting abilities. Nobody could really die inside, so the beasts were happy. Lin Feng admired the King of the 10,000 Beasts for that. He had created a great society. Lin Feng had arrived at the entrance of Minister Rock's territory. There were many beasts around him shouting out, "The Fighting Phantom is back!" Indeed, it's the Fighting Phantom. We can't even see how strong he is anymore. How terrifying. He was only at the top of the Huangqi layer when he became a Fighting Phantom. A field littered with corpses appeared around him. He amazed everybody. Now he's a Fighting Phantom, and he's terrifyingly strong. He seems to be like a celestial imperial beast now, said one beast. What an incredible cultivation speed. We should go and see how strong he is, declared another beast bravely. He's a Fighting Phantom, we can't do that. The ministers won't be happy, said another beast indifferently. He was half rhinoceros, half ox. Why not? We can check his strength. There's nothing disrespectful about that. The king of the 10,000 beasts likes it when people compare themselves and try to become stronger, said the other beast courageously. All right, nodded the other beast. Thunder began to sound as he ran towards Lin Feng. The beasts around roared enthusiastically. Fighting Phantom, be careful, shouted the ox. He raised his fists. Lightning appeared around him. Lin Feng punched out in his direction. There was a boom, and the beast was slammed away and crashed into the ground violently. He stood up again, he looking enthusiastic. How strong! How strong! How powerful! The Fighting Phantom is progressing so damn fast, thought the beasts around, astonished. Bunch of stupid beasts, piss off now. You dare try to see how strong the Fighting Phantom is, even though someone like me can't even see how strong he is, swore Minister Rock after coming out. He looked at Lin Feng and said, You're incredible. I'm very surprised. Minister Rock greeted Lin Feng. I want to go and see the king of the 10,000 beasts. Minister Rock was surprised, but said to Lin Feng, All right, I'll take you to the leader. He opened his massive wings as he turned into a great rock. Come on. Lin Feng jumped onto his back, and they started flying away faster than most of the beasts could follow. Everybody was astonished. The Fighting Phantom really had an extraordinary position within the hierarchy. He could even ride the great rock, who was a minister. Chapter 2296. Joining hands. The span of the great rock's wings was 1,000 meters. He could cross millions of li in no time. When he flapped his wings, it caused hurricanes. Minister Rock took Lin Feng directly to the leader's mansion house. However, they didn't see him there. Fighting Phantom, do you know where to find the leader? Said Minister Rock. I've informed him already. Let's wait here, replied Lin Feng calmly. Even though he was a Fighting Phantom, he had never seen the king of the 10,000 beasts' real body. He had seen him in his previous lives, that was all. He wasn't even sure that the leader had seen him personally. Maybe very few people knew who the king of the 10,000 beasts really was. Lin Feng was even convinced that he had had even more than 81 lives, and that he had practiced all sorts of cultivation. Lin Feng was also convinced that many worlds the king of the 10,000 beasts had lived in had disappeared. Of course, those were just guesses. Only the king of the 10,000 beasts knew the truth. Besides, the leader's cultivation level was also terrifying. How many social statuses did he have in the world? Even though Lin Feng knew he was a leader, and at the same time an ordinary father and husband, he probably had other social statuses in the world. Lin Feng also had many social statuses. Who knew that he was both a Fighting Phantom in the king of the 10,000 beasts world, and a disciple of the Fortune Shrine? Lin Feng. The leader finally arrived. He slowly descended from the sky and looked at Lin Feng, his eyes twinkling. Your cultivation level? Lin Feng laughed. I've understood a lot. I progress quickly. Regarding my cultivation level, you can regard me as a Saint Emperor. Saint Emperor? The leader was astonished, almost trembling. Back then, Lin Feng was an emperor, and he could fight against celestial emperors. Now he had studied a lot, and he could already oppress Saint Emperors? How quick! He had never seen someone progress so quickly. Leader, I would like to see the king of the 10,000 beasts, Lin Feng said to him. The leader looked at Lin Feng and nodded. All right, I'll take you to the king of the 10,000 beasts. They both instantly disappeared from there. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered. After a short time, he recognized his surroundings. He asked, Leader, how big is the king of the 10,000 beasts world? I'm not sure either, said the leader smiling. Lin Feng frowned and asked, Is it completely isolated from the outside world? It is isolated from the outside world, but it can't be completely apart. Great Emperor Bai was extremely strong, and the king of the 10,000 beasts accepted letting him go out. His life is in his hands now, said the leader calmly. Lin Feng was surprised. Great Emperor Bai had seemingly died because of his own actions. The king of the 10,000 beasts had nothing to do with it. Of course, core people can move in and out freely. For example, you as a Fighting Phantom, and all the leaders. The way the king of the 10,000 beasts manages his worlds is stricter and more organized than the way the shrines manage the continent of the 9 clouds. observed Lin Feng. The leader smiled and nodded. Indeed. I've been to the continent of the 9 clouds. The shrines are arrogant. They consider everybody like tiny little insects. Nobody can provoke them. Yes, Lin Feng nodded. He agreed with the leader. The shrines were too arrogant. Many people in the continent of the 9 clouds didn't even know that the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds existed. Or it was not what they thought it was. When people talked about the shrines, they thought the shrines were legendary. The shrines had been like that for a long time. They considered themselves gods. Nobody could say anything about the shrines, apart from the other shrines themselves. And apart from the supreme animal world and some other groups, everybody feared the shrines. A terrifying chi rolled in waves. When they arrived, Lin Feng was stupefied. They both landed on the ground. Leader, where are we? Asked Lin Feng, glancing around. He recognized this place. It was the leader's village. Follow me and you'll know, said the leader with a knowing smile. He looked like an ordinary person again, recalling all his chi and walking normally. Uncle Wang. Lin Feng recalled his chi too. He smiled wryly. They were in the leader's small village again. The young woman ran out to them to greet them. She glanced at Lin Feng and said, "You're back here." "Yes, I came to see Uncle Wang," said Lin Feng cheerfully. The leader looked at the young woman and asked, "Is the old painter here?" "Of course, and he's still painting. What else could he be doing?" giggled the young woman. "I'll go and see him," said the leader. Lin Feng and the leader were soon walking on an ordinary road of the village. They arrived in front of a small house with a small gate in bad shape. Lin Feng saw an old man in a courtyard painting. "It's blank." Lin Feng was astonished when he saw the painting. It was blank. There was nothing on it. The old man was painting on a rock. He was just brushing a rock. How could he be painting? "Leader." Lin Feng looked at his superior strangely. The leader smiled. "Stay here and watch. He can't stop when he's painting." Lin Feng turned his head again and watched curiously. He didn't understand why the leader had taken him here. But very quickly Lin Feng frowned. He realized that the old man wasn't just painting. Lights were entering into the stone. He couldn't really see them with his real eyes. What's going on? Lin Feng didn't think he was wrong. He was staring at the brush. It was similar to when he drew on the pages of his celestial book. Sometimes he stays here and paints for years, or even dozens of years, without taking a break, said the leader indifferently. Lin Feng frowned. Lin Feng couldn't draw for years, and even less so for dozens of years. He wasn't patient or focused enough. This ordinary old man seemed to have no chi at all. But he could draw for dozens of years without stopping, without eating or drinking. Lin Feng slowly turned around and said slowly, "He's?" The leader smiled and nodded. Lin Feng frowned and looked at the old man again. His eyes glittered. The king of the 10,000 beasts. That ordinary old man was the king of the 10,000 beasts. He looked so ordinary, but he had gone through so much in life. Lin Feng could understand, so after a few minutes he calmed down. He took a deep breath and sat down next to the leader. They both watched the old man. After 18 days he finally stopped. He didn't raise his head the entire time, and he didn't glance at Lin Feng even once. "Finally, it's good," said the old man nonchalantly. Only then did he raise his head and look at Lin Feng. He frowned a moment before smiling. "Lin Feng, here we meet again. King of the 10,000 beasts." Lin Feng greeted him. Lin Feng had experienced the king of the 10,000 beasts' lives, but they had never actually met personally. "Not bad. Really not bad," nodded the king of the 10,000 beasts. He smiled and asked, "So, what do you want from me?" "King of the 10,000 beasts, you once said that fighting phantoms were strong enough to manage a world. I want to know how strong you are. I want to join hands with you," Lin Feng declared calmly. He was talking to the king of the 10,000 beasts and saying he wanted to join hands with him. The king of the 10,000 beasts laughed. "Join hands to do what?" Lin Feng stared at him and said coldly, "Destroy those arrogant bastards and conquer the world." Chapter 2297. Forming an army. The king of the 10,000 beasts frowned deeply. He had small eyes, so when he frowned he looked like he had his eyes closed. but the dazzling lights in his eyes pierced through his eyelids. He looked like a peerless sword cultivator. Interesting, said the king of the 10,000 beasts. Even though you are talented, it's still a bit early to destroy those arrogant bastards. Indeed, it's still too early. But you taught me that it takes a lot of time to prepare something like that. I want to prepare myself now. And then we'll see when we have an opportunity, said Lin Feng calmly. He always looked natural and at ease, no matter whom he was talking to. What do you think an opportunity is? The king of the 10,000 beasts asked shrewdly. The first one will be when I am strong enough. The second one will be when someone can help you, answered Lin Feng slowly. Who will help me? You, said the king of the 10,000 beasts, smiling softly. Lin Feng nodded. I can't help you now, but sooner or later I will. The king of the 10,000 beasts remained silent for a few seconds. He was staring Lin Feng in the eyes. Lin Feng didn't look away, staring him back in the eyes, calm and sure. Finally, the king of the 10,000 beasts smiled and stated, I will give you a world army and a leader. How strong is a world army? Asked Lin Feng. In my world, all the leaders are saints or half-saints. A world army is composed of 30 saint emperors, 300 celestial emperors, and as for great emperors, you can choose however many you want as you wish. Regarding the leader, you can have him, he's a low-level saint, said the king of the 10,000 beasts, pointing at the man who had brought Lin Feng there. Lin Feng was astonished, his heart was shaking. The king of the 10,000 beasts was talking about a terrifying army. He had probably needed a great deal of time to create such an army, 30 saint emperors. That was more saint emperors than there were in one of the main cities of dark clouds. If the king of the 10,000 beasts territory was composed of more than 18 worlds, then it meant that he had more saint emperors than there were in one of the 9 clouds. How fearsome! Of course, that was still far from being enough to compete with the shrines. But if the shrines saw that, they would also understand that the king of the 10,000 beasts was probably an extremely dangerous force. Thank you very much, king of the 10,000 beasts, said Lin Feng after taking a deep breath. The king of the 10,000 beasts smiled and asked, What do you want to do with one of my armies? To be honest, those arrogant bastards chased me. They wanted to kill me and I nearly died. I need a powerful army, said Lin Feng. The king of the 10,000 beasts nodded. All right. I'll leave it to you then. Anything else? I would like to experience all your lives now, said Lin Feng. The king of the 10,000 beasts was surprised, but he grinned. You want to experience all of them? Why? Go now. The old man walked to Lin Feng and tapped his shoulder. He said to the leader, I'll leave the rest to you. Go outside and wait for him. Sir, the leader nodded. The king of the 10,000 beasts took Lin Feng to some other place. They instantly disappeared. After the leader saw them leave, he walked over to the stone. He raised his hand and immediately punched it. It exploded and turned to ashes. However, underneath it, dazzling golden lights appeared. It was a shimmering golden pattern. He put his hands in it and used his strength. A landscape with mountains and rivers appeared. Very good, it's a world. The leader's eyes looked sharp. Who would have thought that he was drawing worlds in stone? Achieving such a thing was incredible. He had to be extremely strong. Lin Feng was now with the king of the 10,000 beasts. He experienced lives he hadn't experienced the previous time. Meanwhile, the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds didn't calm down. All the shrines knew Lin Feng had gone to another region. But the continent of the 9 clouds was too big. How could they find him? It was impossible. Time passed. 3 months passed quickly. Lin Feng hadn't reappeared. The shrines gave up and stopped looking for him. Hua Xingzi was in a courtyard in the northwest area in the Void Phoenix clan. He was with Jing's father. What you mean is that the one I saw last time in the Void Phoenix clan was Lin Feng. He simply disguised himself? Asked the middle-aged man slowly. Yes, I hadn't thought about it either. But then some people informed me about it. Hua Xingzi nodded. Hua Shang was next to him and said, And we also know that last time, Qing Feng accepted the marriage alliance to have her phoenix blood cleansed. And that after that, she went to the life shrine because she wanted to sacrifice herself to save him. The middle-aged man looked astonished. Qing Feng wanted to kill herself to save Lin Feng? After that, we started watching her, and we realized that Lin Feng and Qing Feng were extremely close, intimate even. Then, we learned that Miss Jing had always known about that. That's how I understood that that guy was Lin Feng. After he disappeared, did he come back to the Void Phoenix clan? Huashang asked. The middle-aged man nodded and said to Huashang, "So since it was Lin Feng, what do you intend to do?" "Make him show up," said Huashang. Using Qing Feng, the middle-aged man was astonished. He thought of his wife, who loved Qing Feng deeply. "Uncle, it's not using." Qing Feng accepted getting married to a member of the Fire Shrine. Lin Feng obviously doesn't know about that. We've never put pressure on anyone for her to accept that marriage alliance. "Tell the Fortune Shrine about it. I'm sure they'll inform him," said Huashang. His eyes were filled with cold lights. The Fire Shrine was still in charge of killing Lin Feng, even after they had failed. They had even lost a saint. They hated him and wanted to get their revenge. The middle-aged man remained. Huashang was right. Qing Feng had accepted getting married to someone from the Fire Shrine. But if she knew they wanted to use her, would she be happy? After remaining silent for a long time, the middle-aged man finally nodded. "As you wish." "Thank you very much, uncle," said the two happily. If the middle-aged man hadn't agreed, they wouldn't have been able to force them. The Void Phoenix clan was a powerful clan, and this man had a high social status in the Void Phoenix clan. He was a half-saint already. Luckily, their teacher was friends with him. Since he had nodded, things would be much easier. "Uncle, we're off." "See you," said the two, bowing before the middle-aged man before leaving. The middle-aged man sat there inside. He didn't want to do this, but since Qing Feng had come back, she had disappointed him. At the same time in the Fortune Shrine, Lin Feng's clone was with Meng Qing. They were looking at the sky and snuggling. "Lin Feng, are you in that world?" asked Meng Qing, pointing at purple clouds. Lin Feng nodded. "Yes, purple clouds." "Where will you go afterwards?" asked Meng Qing. She didn't know what Lin Feng intended to do. He seemed to be preparing something. After, Lin Feng remained silent for a few seconds and said, "I will go back to the holy city in dark clouds. I'll check the holy city, and then I will come back to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds." He raised his head and looked at the sky again. He wanted to come back to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds and crush so many people. Chapter 2298. Gathering time slipped away, flew, crawled, and zipped along. In the holy city of dark clouds, the ancient holy clans continued growing stronger. They continued ruling over the main cities of the region. For ancient holy clans to truly weaken or be destroyed, thousands and thousands of years were often necessary, unless they offended a terrifyingly strong cultivator. However, the ancient holy clans weren't worried about such things, because there weren't many people who were stronger than them, and they didn't offend such people. Therefore, it was very difficult to destroy them. In the holy city, the 4 universities, Champion University, Celestial Godly University, Ancient University and 4 Seasons University, were still powerful. The famous ancient holy clans, the Ji clan, the Pei clan, the Ying clan, the Yuan clan, the Ying clan, the Great Imperial Palace, the Canaan Buddhist clan, the King of Hell Palace, and so on, were also amongst the strongest groups as well. Champion University and Celestial Godly University were particularly prestigious. Many geniuses wanted to study there. It was a flourishing era for them. Outside of Champion University, 2 young people had appeared. One looked confident and at ease, elegant and handsome. He was wearing cyan clothes and looked a bit unruly. The other one looked completely different. His head reflected sunshine because he had no hair, as he was a Buddhist monk. However, he looked confident and at ease too. There were many people outside of Champion University, but those 2 people drew people's attention. "How handsome. Who's that? He's too handsome. And his chi is incredible. He must be a high-level emperor, no, even stronger," thought a young woman, looking at the young man. She was astounded. Ho Qinglin's chi looked incredible. The 2 people were Ho Qinglin and Tianqi. "How come Wuxia hasn't arrived yet?" asked Tianqi these days. They had received a message from Lin Feng. He wanted them to gather in Champion University. Ho Qinglin had immediately agreed. They hadn't seen each other for so many years. They had all spent time in the remotest corners of the world. They all stopped what they were doing and headed back to the holy city. He'll arrive soon. He bumped onto Jian Meng on the way, so they're come back together, said Ho Qinglin softly, smiling indifferently. Women loved men like him. Inside Champion University, some lights glittered. Many people came out and gathered together. They looked imposing and awe-inspiring. Those are Tiantai's people, right? What are they doing? In Champion University, everybody knew about Tiantai. Tiantai was the strongest group of Champion University. Tiantai had many disciples. In the future, they'd become terrifyingly powerful. Two groups of disciples came out. The woman leading them came out slowly, her hair pitch black, fluttering in the wind. She was wearing a light golden robe and looked as proud as a princess. She smiled happily when she saw those two people. Ho Qinglin and Tian Qi smiled broadly. Yin Qingyin looked great. Welcome back, second and third brothers, she shouted. Instantly many people looked at them. They were stunned. Second and third brothers? Tiantai only had two people who they called second and third brothers. Ho Qinglin, who carried out reincarnation sword attacks, and Tian Qi, the Buddhist monk. It's them. They're back. The crowd gasped with amazement. Ho Qinglin and Tian Qi were Lin Feng's fellow disciples. They were really strong, and now they were back. Brother Ho Qinglin. No wonder he looks incredible, thought the girl in the crowd who had found Ho Qinglin handsome. I came to greet you at the cost of a lot of effort. Yin Qingyan laughed. Ho Qinglin and Tian Qi were speechless. She was too funny. What about Lin Feng? He finished first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. And now we don't see him anymore. Yin Qingyan pouted. Where was he? Let's go in to talk. Ho Qinglin smiled. He glanced at the members of Tiantai. So many years had passed and Tiantai had become powerful. They had anticipated this. Tiantai was rising as expected. All right. Yin Qingyan brought them inside. The crowd kept talking and gossiping. They followed the group of people from Tiantai, wanting to see the legendary cultivators of Tiantai. They had heard many legends about Tiantai, what had happened with the Jicheng's club at the beginning, and that time when the Jicheng's club had been destroyed. Yet nobody knew if everything was true. 6 hours later, someone wearing black clothes with a sword on his back appeared outside of Champion University. Next to him was a blind man. They both looked dangerously strong. Who are they? Wondered the crowd. Tiantai, my fellow disciples, teacher, Wuxia is back, said Wuxia, smiling widely before entering Champion University with Jian Meng. Wuxia, that's Wuxia from Tiantai. He controls time strength. He's an incredible fighter. And that blind guy must be Jian Meng. He's a blind sword cultivator. He also controls light strength. They're back too. Tiantai's core disciples are back. They were on the Celestial Champion ranking list for a very long time, and at some point, it wasn't necessary to have them on the list anymore, said someone. Even though their names had been removed from the list, nobody had forgotten about them. As long as Tiantai existed, people would talk about them. One day later, someone else appeared. He was gigantic, and his teeth were sharp. He shouted, "Brothers and sisters, Tiantai is back." He jumped into Champion University. He wanted everyone to see he was back. On that same day, Lang Yi and Junemo, she also arrived at Champion University. They all came back. The atmosphere grew quite lively in Champion University. Lang Yi and Junemo, she were famous in the entire city. One had an imperial immortal body. The other one had a world king body. Now they were back in the holy city, and they came to Champion University. Champion University had turned into a meeting spot for all those geniuses. It was as if something was about to happen. Why had all these geniuses decided to come back at the same time? All these people had different relationships, but one person connected them. One person, a peerless genius of the continent of the 9 clouds. But he wasn't there, he hadn't come back. Where was Lin Feng? A man and woman appeared outside of Champion University. They stayed outside for a long time and looked at the entrance, smiling. Behind them were some young people, and a wooden silhouette. Xiao Yu, we're here. This is Champion University, murmured Mu Chun. Jing Xiaoyu and Mu Chun had been traveling all around the world for a long time, and now they were back. Mu Chun was going to see his disciples, his beloved students. Mu Chun was proud of his disciples. Jing Xiaoyu was proud of his disciples too. Back then, they had risked their lives for him and shouted loudly, "Mu Chun is our teacher." Mu Chun and Xiaoyu entered Champion University. Some people welcomed them. Champion University was lively. However, everybody had the sensation someone was missing. Someone was missing and hadn't arrived. Was he going to come back? Chapter 2299. Drunk and sobering up. Was Lin Feng going to come back? Lin Feng was obviously going to come back. He had contacted all his friends. How could he not come back? Of course. Only someone Lin Feng could make all those people return. They had been separated for such a long time. Gathering again was a good thing. In the future he was going to go through many hardships, more hardships. He needed to become much stronger to put pressure on all the shrines. It was going to be dangerous. If the life shrine hadn't helped him, he would have died already. As everybody was wondering when Lin Feng would come back, a young man arrived at Champion University. He looked ordinary, his chi was ordinary. He didn't draw anyone's attention. Even those who were waiting for him didn't know he had arrived at Champion University. He even passed next to people would have recognized him. People didn't expect Lin Feng's comeback to be like that. He didn't draw anyone's attention. The celestial chi was still incredible at Champion University. Tiantai's headquarters were now in a park. There was a waterfall made of chi. It was isolated from the outside world. People who were practicing cultivation weren't disturbed by anything there. There were many people in the park right now. Lin Feng opened the secret door to the park and entered. In the park, many people were walking. Many others were seated cross-legged practicing cultivation. Many people looked at Lin Feng. He was in his real form again, smiling widely. Behind him was a beautiful woman, Tang Yu. "You're back," shouted someone, breaking the calm. Lin Feng turned around and saw two people in a pavilion, Emperor Shi and Emperor Yu. "Teachers, I'm back," said Lin Feng, grinning happily. "It's good that you came back." "It's good," said Emperor Yu, nodding continuously. Lin Feng realized that even though he had become stronger, Emperor Yu didn't look so young anymore. He had many wrinkles. Lin Feng glanced at the crowd, remembering what everybody had gone through because of him in Bahuang province. He also remembered the old man from the palace of the medicinal kings, who had made Emperor Yu kneel down. When he thought about that, he was suddenly furious again. Nobody could understand what it felt like. He looked like a child when he thought about that. He remembered the good old days, when his two teachers taught them cultivation. He thought of the catastrophes in Bahuang. Emperor Yu saw that their disciples had grown up. They were all very strong. He was very happy now, happy to see all his disciples. He wanted to shout, "They are my beloved disciples." Mu Chun was extremely happy too. Emperor Yu and Mu Chun kept beaming, as if their faces might split. Lin Feng looked over at Junimo Shi Lang Yi, Ho Qing Lin, Tian Qi, Wuxia, Jiang Mang Tantai, Huang Fulong, and he said, "Yu, do you have alcohol?" "It's ready for you," said Tang Yu, laughing. She took out bottles one after another. Lin Feng took them and announced to everybody, "Today we're going to drink. Let's drink," agreed Junimo Shi, walking forwards. He glanced at Lin Feng, Tang Yu and Huang Fulong. "Unfortunately, we never found Fei Yang." "He must be fine," Lin Feng smiled. He threw bottles of alcohol at everybody. Everybody caught at least one. The bottles all broke open. Huang Fulong downed his alcohol. His cheeks turned red and he said, "Time flies, so many years have passed. Let's drink." All those years had passed in the twinkling of an eye. He remembered, back in the days when he hoped he'd get married to Tian Qi Shui. Now he felt old. Time was cruel and spared nobody. "Let's drink," echoed Junimo Shi, raising his bottle and downing his alcohol. His cheeks felt numb. "How awesome," said Junimo Shi. So much time had passed. He hadn't allowed himself to rest for a very long time. He had focused on becoming stronger. Lang Yi looked at all his friends and smiled. He downed his alcohol without saying anything. Very quickly, everybody was drunk. and it smelled like booze everywhere. Bottles popped one after another. Tang Yu kept throwing bottles at people. Time passed. People didn't talk so much, simple glances were enough. Empty bottles covered the ground. Huang Fulong raised his head and laughed frantically. We finished all the alcohol. There's always alcohol left, said Jun Emoshi laughing loudly. To Tiantai. Haha Jun Emoshi, you and Lang Yi should join Tiantai. To Tiantai, said everybody, raising more bottles and downing them, then throwing the bottles on the ground. Lin Feng looked at everybody, he was seated on the ground. Mu Chun and Emperor Yu were seated on the ground too. Lin Feng smiled and said olishly, Teacher, that alcohol is strong, isn't it? It's quite strong indeed, said Mu Chun nodding and smiling. He was drunk already. Have a good rest. Don't worry about anything, said Lin Feng smiled, before laying down on the grass and looking up at the sky. There were white clouds. The waterfall was filled with celestial qi. Everything was perfect. He was smiling happily. Today was carefree. They just got drunk and forgot their worries. Sleep. Everybody finally laid down. Everything was spinning. Everybody closed their eyes and started sleeping. They could hear the sound of the waterfall. It became cooler outside and calm. Jing Xiaoyu was lying in Mu Chen's arms. Tang Yu walked over to Lin Feng and smiled. She glanced at Yin Qing Yen, who had tried to get Ho Qing Lin and Ruoxia drunk. But now she was drunk too. They had a perfect day. All these people were the pride of Champion University. If anyone had seen them all lying around drunk, they would have been flabbergasted. The next day, early in the morning, it was quite chilly. Lin Feng opened his eyes and glanced around. Most people were still sleeping. Junemo, she was seated on a stone chair. Emoshi, why didn't you bring Xiao Dai? Lin Feng asked Jun Emoshi. Jun Emoshi smiled wryly and said, Lin Feng, how long will we need to live to reach the very top of cultivation? Lin Feng was surprised and asked, Did anything happen? Xiao Dai and I have been in love for a long time. But because of cultivation, I don't keep her with me. We only meet once in a while. As I become stronger, the distance between her and me gets more and more important. Even though she loves me, a certain distance is created, murmured Jun Emoshi sighing. Lin Feng was impressed and said, Xiao Dai is a good girl. Yes, and she doesn't want to make me feel tired. She's sad. I wish she were strong. She'd be able to travel with me that way, said Jun Emoshi slowly. I've thought of giving up cultivation for her and living an ordinary life with her in the continent of the 9 clouds. But I can't. My dream is to become a strong cultivator. If I bumped into someone strong and I couldn't protect my close ones, how can you live if you're weak anyway? Do your best to give up everything and quickly reach the top, and then you can meet her again. Then, you'll be free and unfettered, said Mu Chen, standing up slowly. It's your best choice. You can't do like me and give up cultivation. Maybe, said Jun Emoshi with a smile. Lin Feng said nothing. Everybody had different purposes in life. Junemo, she had to make his own decisions. People gradually woke up. They had sobered up a little. Teacher, I want to create a sect in the holy city and call it Tiantai, Lin Feng said to Mu Chen and Emperor Yu. Now, Emperor Yu was stupefied. Is it the right time? Yes. Tiantai is strong already. We have many great emperors. We can't expand without doing so. Besides, I will get rid of some obstacles and Champion University will support us. Lin Feng smiled. Emperor Yu and everybody else were astonished. How scary and wild an idea. I'm going to see the ancestors of Champion University to tell them about this. The holy city will become our headquarters, Lin Feng grinned. He had always wanted Tiantai to reign over the world. Chapter 2300, Hunting. In the holy city, the Ji clan, the Ying clan and the other ancient holy clans had suffered losses back in the days when Lin Feng had killed some of their people. But they were still among the strongest groups of the city. However, behind the scenes, they felt under pressure. For example, the Ying clan was going through difficult times because of Xiao Wutian, who kept oppressing them and chasing Ying Cheng. Ying Cheng had already become a celestial emperor. He was strong, but Xiao Wutian had become a saint emperor. He could easily oppress Ying Cheng. Of course, the Ying clan had chased Xiao Wutian many times, but a Saint Emperor wasn't easy to kill. Therefore, Xiao Wutian wasn't dead, and he continued hunting Ying Cheng. He had nearly killed him a few times too. Luckily, the Ying clan had granted Ying Cheng some life-saving items. The Ji clan was also going through difficult times. They remembered Lin Feng hated them. It had started with Ji Wuyo, and then had continued getting more and more intense. They had even sent some strong cultivators to kill Lin Feng back then. Nowadays, the Ji clan didn't really care about Lin Feng. They still had some people who paid attention to him and kept track of his whereabouts regularly. They were scared of him now. They knew that he had ranked first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. They also knew that he had become a core disciple of the Fortune Shrine, which terrified them. After that, they had lost track of him. He had disappeared. They could only hope that he had died abroad. Lin Feng's statue in Champion University only reminded them that Lin Feng could come back someday. Many people appeared in their territory. They weren't from the holy city. They had appeared there during the night. But because they dared mix with the crowd, they drew people's attention. They were everywhere in the territory of the Ji clan. A few people were chatting in a restaurant. The Ji clan is like that too. They're an ancient holy clan, but are they among the strongest groups? Ask someone. There were some young people from the Ji clan there drinking. The young man was making fun of them. The members of the Ji clan looked at him coldly and swore. "Who are you, Your Excellency? How dare you humiliate the Ji clan?" The young man who spoke was wearing black clothes. He said indifferently, "I humiliate the Ji clan, so what?" The restaurant became eerily silent. Someone dared humiliate the Ji clan there. Why provoke them? The members of the Ji clan stood up and slowly walked towards him, releasing an ice-cold chi. "Kneel down and apologize," demanded one of them coldly. "You want me to kneel down?" The young man frowned. Demon lights glittered in his eyes. His chi was terrifying. The young people of the Ji clan suddenly felt cold and scared. The people next to that young man in black clothes didn't even raise their heads. "If you don't kneel down, we'll kill you," vowed the member of the Ji clan. He released oppressive chi. At the same time, the young people at the table raised their heads, their eyes filled with murder. The members of the Ji clan were suddenly terrified. "Die!" said all the people at the same time. They released death intent together. The faces of the young people of the Ji clan turned gray. They all released as much chi as they could. A strong wind started blowing. The young man in black clothes moved swiftly. At the same time, the other people released death cosmic energies. Energies began to conflict loudly. The skull of a young man of the Ji clan exploded. He died instantly. The young man in black clothes looked as if nothing had happened. He sat down again. At that moment, the atmosphere became as cold as death. In the blink of an eye, a young man of the Ji clan had been killed. The other young people of the Ji clan were astonished. They wanted to kill these people. They all jumped forwards to attack. "Die," said a voice coldly. Very quickly, many corpses appeared in the restaurant. They were from the Ji clan. There were a lot of them, but they were now softly lying on the ground dead. Only one of them hadn't fought. He was trembling in fear. They were all dead. None of them were left. He looked at the young man in black clothes before turning around and running away. He was thinking he had to run away quickly. Otherwise, these people would kill him to prevent him from talking. But he overestimated himself. Those people are audacious. The crowd was astonished and shaken. Who were these people in black clothes? They were very strong. They could easily kill people of the Ji clan, who had the same cultivation level. And they weren't scared of the Ji clan and the consequences. If they don't run away quickly, some strong cultivators from the Ji clan will come and avenge those young people, said someone in the restaurant. But the people in black didn't seem to feel unsafe. They were still sitting there motionless. As the crowd had expected, some great emperors from the Ji clan arrived quickly and destroyed the restaurant from the top down. Destructive Tao invaded the atmosphere. "Who are you? Talk," demanded a great emperor of the Ji clan of those emperors in black clothes. Those people just raised their heads and looked at them, remaining silent. "You want to die," shouted the great emperor furiously. He descended from the sky. A silhouette rose up instantly to counter, his fist raised. Great punch of destruction. shouted the strong cultivator of the Ji clan. However, a pitch-black demon Dao fist destroyed his destructive Dao and continued moving towards him. He shouted desperately as the fist crashed onto his body and blew him apart. He died instantly. Everybody was astonished. The one who had just killed the great emperor went back to his seat. He looked undisturbed as if nothing had happened. "We're in the territory of the Ji clan here," thought the crowd. They were speechless. How arrogant. They understood that this wasn't over. The Ji clan just hadn't thought that a great emperor would die so quickly against these people. Their foes weren't weak this time. As they thought that, in the distance, more chi was coming in waves. A group of strong cultivators appeared, their chi rising to the skies. The group of people in the restaurant rose up into the air and released bestial chi. The strong cultivators of the Ji clan stopped instantly. They shouted, "Who are you?" Clouds surged up and white wings appeared. The crowd couldn't see the strong cultivators of the Ji clan anymore. Those wings covered the sky. People's hearts started pounding. "Ah!" someone screamed. Blood splashed. The beasts moved in all directions, and all the strong cultivators of the Ji clan disappeared. The crowd was astonished and shaking. The strong cultivators of the Ji clan didn't even have time to react. They finally realized that those people hadn't killed some of their people randomly. It was a plan. They had come to slaughter people from the Ji clan. People's hearts pounded violently when they realized that these people had come to hunt people from the Ji clan, an ancient holy clan. They were terrifyingly strong. Who were they? What was really happening? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.